Right, good morning all. Should be up and running now. We're just waiting for them to start. Thank you everyone for joining. I will catch up with you in a moment. We're just waiting for them to start. Apologies yesterday for the stream. I was trying an old laptop. Unfortunately, it didn't want to work. But we're back today and we're just waiting for them to start. So please bear with me a second. If anyone's around over the weekend, around lunchtime, I'm going to do some premieres of some other meetings that have gone on during the week that you might find interesting. Okay. That I didn't get because they overlap sometimes. You don't get a chance to do them all at the same time. No. Right, let's have a look. We're just waiting for them to start. Its start time is 10 o'clock. And hopefully the audio's okay. Everything's good. Right, we're going to go over it because they're starting.
Welcome to this Mayor's question time. If we can begin with the first item, apologies for absence and we'll deal with Chair's announcements. Are there any apologies?
Thank you, Chair. We have no apologies for absence today. We have apologies for lateness from Assembly Member Mo Emma.
Thank you very much. Can I just begin with some announcements? The London Assembly is the voice of London, composed of 25 members elected at the same time as the Mayor in order to hold him to account, scrutinise his policies and investigate matters of importance to Londoners. Can I welcome members and officers and the public here in the gallery and those watching on the webcast. As I've said, this is the Mayor's question time meeting of the Assembly, which means that all members have been invited and to attend and ask questions of the Mayor. In case of emergency or any need to exit the buildings, guests seated in the public gallery should follow security staff, and the Assembly members and the Mayor should follow the meeting clerk. Members are reminded that any electronic devices should not be placed in front of the microphones, which must be turned on to speak and turned off once finished. Can I now ask, no, we've dealt with that. I'm not going to ask that. I'm going to move straight into the announcement and just remind members and our audience of what we've done since we last met in December. The Police and Crime Committee held an extraordinary meeting with the Mayor, Deputy Mayor for Policing and Crime about the handling of the Met's draft estate strategy. The Budget and Performance Committee wrote to the Mayor about both the MOPAC and Transport for London's budgets. The committee also met to scrutinise the GLA and its functional bodies on their housing delivery budgets for 26-27 and wrote to the Mayor regarding the functional bodies' housing budgets. The committee also questioned GLA officers on the process of how the Mayor's draft 2026/27 budget was designed. The Environment Committee met to continue its investigation into heat networks, looking at the cost implications of heat networks that have on Londoners' heating bills. And only this week, the Economy, Culture and Skills Committee met with the charities to find out what support is given to London's unpaid carers. The committee also published its reports on employment in London after prisons, highlighting the challenges of prison leavers facing accessing employment and the impact this has on the London economy. And the Fire Committee heard from experts on the firefighters' mental health. The committee discussed why stress, anxiety and depression are increasing in the fire and rescue sector. And finally, the Police and Crime Committee begins its investigation into the Mayor's Office for Policing and Crime's oversight of cultural change within the Metropolitan Police Service.
Chair, Lord Duval, you've forgotten one of the most important things, and I'm sure every single colleague, including the Mayor, will agree with me. To your left, you had the most incredible officer, Rebecca Arnold, who has put up with us for 20 years. Yeah. And I'd just like to say, on behalf, I'm sure, of everybody, thank you very much for the incredible work you do, and actually for putting up with us, which I do accept unreservedly isn't easy at times. So thank you, Rebecca, on behalf of us all.
And rightly pointed out that I'd neglected it. And I think on behalf of everybody around this table, including the Mayor, I think I can say this is well done. 20 years and you're still with us is some achievement. Now, let's just to mention some people in the gallery. I'll be doing this throughout the meeting, but in terms of some of the people already in the gallery that I just want to give a shout out to is welcome our colleagues from London and Partners, which is part of the GLA family, and they're somewhere in the gallery, so you're welcome to observe our proceedings. I hope you're looking forward to the exciting exchanges that are about to take place. Let's do some formal business before we go through. Declarations of interest. Can I ask the Assembly to note the interest set out in item 2? Do Assembly members have any other disclosable pecuniary interests which relate to the items on the agenda for today's meeting or any other relevant interest, including any declarations in relation to gifts, hospitalities, which are not reflected in the authority's register of gift and hospitalities? Thank you very much. Minutes. Can I ask the Assembly to confirm the minutes of the London Assembly plenary meeting held on the 4th of December to be signed by me as a correct record? And now we're going to move to the Mayor's report. Can I ask the Assembly to formally receive the Mayor's report covering the period from the 5th of December to the 31st of December 2025? The Mayor will now provide an oral update of up to 5 minutes or so in length on matters occurring since the publication of his reports. Mr. Mayor, welcome.
Good morning. Can I begin by wishing everyone a very happy New Year? Chair, I'm going to spare Rebecca's blushes by asking who the most difficult and challenging chair is to advise. I'm sure we know the answer. Tonight I'll be giving a speech at the annual London Government Dinner, where I'm going to be talking about one of the major challenges that are set to face our city: the impact of artificial intelligence. AI presents so many opportunities for our society, from boosting the rapid growth of our incredible tech sector to revolutionising our public services and turbocharging productivity across a wide range of sectors and industries. However, we also need to be clear-eyed about the risks and dangers this new technology can pose to Londoners. Just this week, we've read shocking reports of how X's AI tool Grok is being used to undress women in photos online and create sexualised images, including of children. I'm sure members of the Assembly would agree with me that this is utterly appalling and that Ofcom is right to launch an investigation. We know from our experience with social media that when we're too slow to respond to new technology and put in place effective guardrails, there can be severe costs. In the case of AI, I'm also concerned about the impact it could have on London's labour market, with entry-level roles at risk and jobs potentially disappearing faster than new ones can be created. In fact, research suggests that because of AI, 70% of skills in the average job will have changed by 2030. That's only 4 years away. So, if you want to future-proof our economy and our workforce, we need to act now to support Londoners to get the skills they need to cope with this transition and make the most of the incredible opportunities that AI creates. And that's why I'm announcing today that we'll be launching a new London task force on AI and the future of work, as well as commissioning free AI skills training, which we'll make available to Londoners. This is all part of our efforts to make sure that AI works for Londoners and that it will help us build a fairer, safer and more prosperous London for everyone. Thank you, Chair. I look forward to answering questions during the course of the next few hours.
Okay, thank you very much for that. We can now move to questions on the priority order of paper. Each group is allocated an amount of time to ask questions that is proportional to their political group size. The first question is titled Actions as Mayor from Assembly Member Hall.
I thank the member for a question and Happy New Year. I'm extremely proud of my record as Mayor and the progress made last year to make London a fairer, safer, greener and more prosperous city. In November, I announced we had reached the incredible milestone of delivering 100 million free school meals to our state primary school children. I know this is a policy opposed by some in the Assembly, but as a result of the choice I made, every child in every state primary in London is now receiving a healthy, nutritious meal every day. As well as benefiting young people, this policy is giving families much-needed support during the cost of living crisis, saving parents on average £500 per child per year. This is a lifeline for many, following the disastrous economic legacy of the previous government. Nothing is more important to me than giving Londoners the best possible start in life. This includes ensuring that our young people are safe, and I'm proud that last year, London reached its lowest homicide rate in recorded history per capita. 2025 also saw the fewest number of homicides of victims aged under 25 in London this century, and the fewest teenage homicides in almost 3 decades. This is hugely encouraging and proof that our approach is the right one. One homicide is one too many as far as I'm concerned, and I'm not complacent. but these impressive results are the product of our deliberate strategy to drive down violence by backing our police service through record funding from City Hall and funding vital resources for our young people, from youth clubs to mentors, and our violence reduction unit, which has been instrumental to our success. I'm also proud that we've managed to secure from the government a series of measures that will make London a better place in which to live, work and invest in, including securing the DLR extension to Thamesmead, new powers to implement a tourist levy and a green and integrated settlement for London. Crucially, scrapping the two-child benefit cap, which I've long campaigned for, will have a significant impact across London. I'm not complacent, there's always work to do. But perhaps what I most regret is that I haven't challenged enough those who pretend this isn't progress, and also who constantly talk down our capital for their own political gain, rather than defending what the capital represents and celebrating our success.
Thank you, Mayor, and Happy New Year to you too. I have every confidence that you actually do regret your response to me when I asked you, it's a year ago now, about grooming gangs, and you pretended that you knew nothing about it. And as you know, I've had lots of victims have contacted me since, both furious that you pretended you knew nothing about it, also telling me their terrible stories. But do you regret that your government's failures in handling the national inquiry into grooming gangs in London has taken more than a year to appoint a chair, and the inquiry still does not have even the basic terms of reference?
Can I thank the member for her question and greetings? I think the starting point for this conversation must always be victims and survivors, and I'm really pleased she mentioned the victims and survivors. They've been let down for a long, long time, not just in the northern towns, but we know across the country. That's why I support the recommendation for there to be a national inquiry made by Dame Louise Casey. I'm disappointed that none of the recommendations made by the previous inquiry from Alexis J were implemented by the previous government. I'm pleased there's now a chair in place and a team to advise the chair. I'm disappointed it's taken this long. I agree with her for the National Inquiry's work to begin, to reassure her the Met Police Service will be fully cooperating with the National Inquiry. They've already begun the task of going back 15 years in relation to potential opportunities lost to catch bad people and protect women and girls. And I'm more than happy to get the police to brief her offline in relation to further work being undertaken.
Well, I'm glad you recognise this now, Mayor, because it is so serious and it's so terrible and tragic, and I hope things do happen about it. But actually, women and girls are losing confidence in the police due to consistent failures in vetting. We saw that this week. Do you regret that MOPAC-led initiative Stride, which prioritised diversity and inclusion programmes over adequate vetting and allowed a serial rapist, PC Cliff Mitchell, to join the force despite a prior rape accusation, and then he went on to rape 2 more women while as a serving officer? I mean, that was appalling. Do you regret that?
I'm very angry that people like David Carrick and Cliff Mitchell and many others have been allowed to join the police service when they clearly shouldn't have been allowed. The Met Police Service and other police services were wrong to lower the bar because the government was demanding they recruit 20,000 officers in a short period of time. That meant the bar was lowered, and we saw vetting, rather than it being the normal 5-6% rejections, going down to 2%. To reassure the member and Londoners, the people rejected during vetting is now approaching 11%, which shows that we've strengthened the processes for those coming into the police service. The 2 things I've complained about regularly over the last few years is far too easy to become a police officer, far too difficult to get rid of rogue officers. The good news, this Commissioner and myself have been successful in lobbying the government to change the vetting rules and change the misconduct rules. So it's possible now, it wasn't before, to remove an officer who's failed vetting, but she's right. There are dangerous people who are allowed to become police officers who abuse their position to cause damage to Londoners. And I'm incredibly sorry for any Londoner who suffered because of these people getting through. And it's not just bad apples, though. The whole culture needs to be changed in the police service.
But, Mayor, this has gone on, and it was before the Uplift programme. More than a year before that Uplift programme began, HMI Inspectorate of the Constabulary wrote to your Deputy Mayor, warning that appropriate measures for preventing officers abusing their position for sexual purposes were not in place, and that 33% of police officers, 72% of PCSOs and 45% of staff did not have up-to-date security vetting. Were you aware of that in 2018 and 2019?
Neither was I aware that I approve of the bar being lowered. The timeline, I don't want to have an argument, I think is a bit wrong. I'm more than happy to send the member a timeline. The Met Police has gone back now 10 years, in some cases 15 years, in relation to a number of the actions from Dame Louise Casey's report, not just Jericho, Onyx, Ashore and many others. Because the point Dame Louise Casey was making is we've got to change the culture. And one of the ways this commissioner has done that is going back, checking people's, not just P&C checks, not just checking complaints against officers to do with sexual allegations, but also vetting as well, which is the Jericho results. The one final point to make is really important. This was a proactive review the Met Police undertook, which uncovered some of this, which is really important. HMI's point was a point made to a number of police forces as a consequence of the uplift exercise, the PUP exercise, but I'm more than happy to get the team to write to the member.
Yeah, I'd like to see a timeline, but we've got to face facts. This chap was told, everybody was aware that this chap should not have been taken on, but because of the diversity rules, he was signed through. There are other people now that are not vetted properly in the Met. This is something that is ongoing, Mayor. You've been told about this since you began as Mayor, and nobody's looking into it properly, and more things will happen because of this, and I don't think anybody's taking it seriously. It's no good saying it's because of the uplift programme. That is incorrect. These officers need to be vetted properly, and they haven't been, and there are still officers out there that have not been vetted correctly.
I mean, just to be clear, Chair, it's very important. This goes to trust and confidence. David Carrick is not black, but he got through. So there are problems with the way police have been vetting or not vetting. In addition to Jericho, I'm really pleased and I welcome the Home Secretary asking HMI to look again in relation to the police processes. The Commissioner is confident that he's strengthened vetting to the extent where they're one of the best in the country, if not the best. But we welcome the HMI looking into the vetting taking place currently. But it is the case that people got through and became Met Police officers who shouldn't. Not just those applying fresh, but transferees in as well. And that's one of the reasons why the corrective reviews is welcome. And also we welcome the HMI looking into this as well.
Yeah, and they have been for ages, and my time's up. Thank you, Chairman.
OK, I've seen a number of members who want to come on this particular question, so take them in order that I've seen them. It's Assembly Member Turrell.
Thank you, Chair. Happy New Year, Mr. Mayor. You mentioned tourism in your answer, and I appreciate we haven't had the firm 2025 figures yet, but for most years, tourism in London has still been below the pre-pandemic levels. Now, London's a great place to visit, and of course we have so much to offer. And you might have seen online the online spat between Emmanuel Macron and the Mayor of Rome about whether the Netflix show should be Emily in Paris or Emily in Rome. So to promote our great city, I wondered if you're trying to bring Emily to London.
Can I thank the member for his question and chastise my team for not briefing me on whether Emily's coming to London or not. Listen, we're always keen to get programmes like that one in London. Let me see why it's important on a serious point. If films are made in London and they're seen across the globe, that encourages people to come here on holiday or to study and so forth. So locations do matter. The great news, I think outside of LA and I think New York, we are the third city in the world for films being shot, programmes being shot. Recent expansion in Netflix and others coming to London. I'll get my team to look into whether Emily's coming or not and let him know.
Thank you, Mr. Bang. My wife will particularly appreciate some clarification on that. But joking aside, as you say, tourism is important for jobs, it's important for investment. And as I mentioned in my preamble, that tourism in London has still been below pre-pandemic levels. With the fragile state, or the delicate state, I should say, of the tourism market, is now the right time to be introducing a tourism tax?
Yeah, I think his question and his interest in this matter. Look, the good news is, I've just been checking, according to a number of different independent people, including TripAdvisor and others, best city in the world, according to residence consultancy. TripAdvisor says we're the top travel destination in the world. Time Out say we're the capital of the music in the world. Pour Moi says we're the most romantic city in the world. And eDreams ODA Joe say we're the most searched for holiday destination in the world. I'm not complacent, though. That's one of the reasons why I'm keen for there to be a tourism levy. Why? Because I see the Parises, the Romes, the New Yorks, using the additional revenue brought in for tourists to improve the offer for further tourists to come. So the government's embarking on a consultation. I'd encourage everyone to respond to that consultation. We will then be working with the tourism sector, with the hospitality sector, with boroughs, with businesses and others to make sure we do right by this sector. We want to build and enhance it, not cause any damage at all. And I understand the genesis of your concern. We will make sure we work with the sector to make sure we get benefits out of this rather than disbenefits.
Thank you for the answer, Mr Mayor. I'm sure the most romantic city in the world clearly refers to the exchanges between you and Assembly Member Georgiou. A lot of the cities that charge a tourism tax or a tourism levy also offer tax-free shopping, which of course is something the UK has abolished. Do you think that as an offset to a new tax on visiting London, that is something we should be pursuing?
Well, he was careful with the words he used. Let's be clear. Prime Minister Boris Johnson and Chancellor Rishi Sunak got rid of this tourism benefit to those who come and shop here. I think it was a mistake. I've been lobbying this government to reverse that for reasons he'll appreciate, because the inheritance has been less easy than I would have hoped. But he's right in terms of the impact it has. We've had stories about people, rather than coming here for 7 days on holiday, come here for 4 or 5 days and go to Paris, one of the other cities, because they can get 20% discount on luxury products. So our retail loses out, but also our hotels lose out. Hospitality in terms of theatre and so forth loses out. So I think we can't just look at it, in my view, in revenues raised by the VAT. It's revenues lost by tourists not staying as long as they otherwise would. That's why I'm a big believer in tourists getting this benefit.
Thank you for that, Mr. Johnson. I'm just going to change subject very quickly and go back to our favourite mutual subject of the DLR extension down to Thames Inver. Now, it came out a couple of, which you mentioned in your statement. It's been mentioned in the various budget meetings that because this is going to be, this now has to be funded through borrowing rather than through a government grant, that it's going to go over the 1.5 billion price tag originally associated with this. Could you just reassure me that these extra borrowing costs won't prohibit this very important extension happening, and that there are still the option of taking it down to Belvedere in the future?
Mr Mayor, before you answer that question, I just think somewhere in there I heard the word that you regret something, Mr Mayor.
Do you regret it's being borrowed?
I know the Tory group will say they heard it. I think some of your colleagues around the table will have some problem with that. But let's, in the spirit of the new year, let's the Mayor answer the question.
And this is why Rebecca deserves a medal for putting up with this. So look, I've been involved both as a minister and as the Mayor in a number of infrastructure projects. They all require borrowing. The Elizabeth line, we're going to be paying back until probably 2040. The Northern Line extension probably won't be paid back for another, I think, 10 years. The Silvertown Tunnel is a 25-year project. And not surprisingly, the DLR extension monies will be borrowed and they'll be paid back over some time. That's not uncommon in terms of those projects. In relation to Belvedere, my disappointment is that the council have been very against the DLR extension going there. If they want to work with us to try and get it to go to Belvedere, I'm more than happy to work with them. The current scheme, I should say, for the sake of accurateness, is DLR through Beckton to Thamesmead, not going to Belvedere. But I'm more than happy for the team to work with the council and the member to make progress there.
Thank you. That's me done.
Mr Mayor, can you just bring your mic unit a bit closer to you, because I think there's some difficulty in picking you up. Ahmed.
Thank you, Chair. Good morning, Mr Mayor, and Happy New Year to you and your family. Mr Mayor, you continue to fund the Violence Reduction Unit, which is one of the actions that you took. It was the first violence reduction unit in England. And you've spoken about the impact of that and other actions that you've taken, which it may be an inconvenient truth, but has led to the safest year that we've had in London in a decade, which many people in this chamber and those who wish to do London down don't want to acknowledge. Mr. Mayor, could you tell us how you will be building on that success this coming year?
Well, can I thank them for our good wishes and greetings. So one of the things that I'm quite clear on is, without in any way excusing criminality, understanding why it happens, particularly serious violence. And I think we would have a public health approach to address that. I think deprivation, poverty, alienation, lack of opportunity are all factors. You go back 100 years, it's the most deprived communities in our city where there's been the greatest crime, most victims and actually most perpetrators as well. So what we've sought to do since I've become mayor is be both toughen crime with enforcement, more than doubling support for the police in terms of investment, but also toughen the complex causes of crime by funding the country's first violence reduction unit. We've provided positive opportunities for more than 500,000 young people, after-school clubs, weekend clubs, holiday schemes, mentors, youth workers in police stations, youth workers in hospitals. There is an 80% reduction in reoffending of those young people. There's a 75% reduction in harm of those young people as a direct consequence, in my view, of the VRU. The most startling statistic from the stuff published this week wasn't the fact we've got the lowest homicide rate since records began in London on a per capita basis, but there are 44% fewer young people going to A&Es with a knife injury. There are 13,900 fewer violent people injured per year as a direct consequence of our policies. We're going to build on that. We're currently negotiating / lobbying with the government for funding for next year, both for the police and for the VRU. And I'm hoping over the course of the next few weeks to, when the budget process is complete, report back what we've managed to do for next year.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you, Chair.
Assembly Member Rani.
Thank you, Chair. So one of your key actions as Mayor of London, despite opposition from certain groups, was to fund universal free school meals for all primary school children in London, so that now every state primary school child in London benefits from that scheme. Now, you mentioned your opening answer to the question about the milestone of reaching 100 million free school meals. Can you tell us about the educational but also the impact in terms from a health perspective that's having on young people in London?
Excuse me, there's not been regret from the past two questions. So if the same rules could apply, Lord Duval, I'd be so grateful.
The same rules will. Assembly Member Rani, had you finished?
Do you regret funding universal free school meals?
All I'm waiting, Chair, is for the Edith PF soundtrack to begin in relation to this. I don't regret rejecting the advice from the Conservatives and providing universal free school meals. I remember at Hustings them saying there's no such thing as a free meal. The shame of that. And they will soon say there's no such thing as a free NHS or free police service or free defence. This is a classic example of the difference between us and others, which is, I think, the universal provision of free school meals isn't just of itself a great thing to do because you're alleviating the stress of those families who are struggling, but also we can see the benefits in terms of children attending more, behaving better and performing better as well in their classroom. Less tension between schools and parents in terms of chasing up the debt for free school meals. But also these children who perform better now will perform better as adults as well because productivity will go through the system. So I have no regrets in relation to this policy, and as long as I'm mayor, we're going to carry on doing this.
Assembly Member Garrett.
You were just talking about violence reduction, and in your answer earlier you were talking about homicide, which is something you've been talking about all week. Now, I appreciate people challenging Donald Trump's fake news, but not if they just replace it with fake news of their own. So, the last year of Mayor Johnson's mayoralty, there were 9,721 knife offences in London. Last year, there were 16,147. That's a huge increase. And in fact, every year of your mayoralty has been higher than the last year of Johnson's mayoralty. Even the pandemic year, when everyone was locked in their homes half the year, had more knife crimes in London than under Boris Johnson. I'm sure you're going to say you regret that increase. do you also regret trying to gaslight Londoners and tell them that the evidence that they see and the data in the police statistics is wrong?
I thank the member for his question. For certain crimes, the way the data is recorded is different now to what it was in previous years. Knife crime is one of those. There are certain crimes that are recorded exactly the same, homicide being a good example. There are some data we can get objectively that is clearly the same. Those who go to hospitals with injury, clearly that won't change in terms of definition. So what I can share with him is compared to 2016 and now, there are 13,900 fewer incidents of violence with injury. As I said, 44% reduction in young people going to hospitals with a knife, and the lowest homicides rates in history on a per capita basis since records began, 1.1 per 100,000. We can go back to 2016 and 2015 compared to 100,000. It was higher than 1.1. I do accept, though, crime is too high in London. I do accept high-volume crime, shoplifting, personal robbery, personal theft is too high. Antisocial behaviour is too high. Acquisitive crime is too high. Homicide is too high. One violent crime is one too many, so we're going to carry on bearing down on those crimes.
You're cherry-picking statistics and you're trying to pretend that things are getting better. Let's look at robbery. If you break down the knife crime stats and specifically focus on robbery, and let's be clear what this means. This means an innocent person going about their day is confronted by a violent man threatening them with a knife to hand over their valuables. Last year of Boris Johnson's mayoralty, 4,500. That is a lot too many. But last year, 10,017. It's more than doubled. Again, every single year of your mayoralty, more people in London were threatened with a knife, robbed at knife point for their valuables, than the last year of Boris Johnson. The figures have got worse. Every single year of your mayoralty is worse than what you inherited. How can you tell Londoners that it's getting better?
Well, using the definition of personal robbery on a like-for-like basis, it's gone down 15% in the last year. Personal theft, gone down 25% in the last year. How has it gone down?
To be clear, hang on, I didn't say personal robbery, because this includes business robbery, where, let's say, someone running a corner shop is threatened with a knife. That would count as a business robbery. All of that together, personal robbery and business robbery, Londoners threatened at knife point for their valuables, that has doubled, more than doubled, during your mayoralty, and it's been worse in every year of your mayoralty. So you've introduced this shift to personal robbery. That was not my question.
I'm happy to talk about theft from a shop, if that's where he wants to go. There's been a 25% reduction in this year in theft from shops, and that's one of the reasons for that is we doubled the size of the team in the West
So
End.
is that better now or worse than it was in Johnson's last year?
Look, can we allow the Mayor to answer the question, then you come back and you get the opportunity to do that?
But I've been quite clear from 2016 about the consequences of austerity. I'm the guy that explained that when you cut a third
So he's
of
changing the topic, Chair. He's changing the topic. I asked him about violence, and he's changing the topic and not answering my question, is he? Because he knows that every single year of his mayoralty, the crime figures are the robbery figures are worse. And before you get onto police numbers, Boris Johnson inherited about 31,000 Met police officers. He handed over to you about 31,000 Met police officers. Currently, there are about 31,000 Met police officers. That is not the explanation for this.
Sorry, we just moved on to police officers
and
now.
the population's gone up by more than 1.1 million. But let's deal with the facts, which is this. We've had record austerity since 2010 up until last year. We've lost £1.2 billion, which is a third of our core funding. Police numbers went down to 29,000 as a consequence of the previous government's cuts. And I was the person making it quite clear about the consequences of this austerity. So crime did go high in a number of areas, including homicide. What we've done is from City Hall, trying to fill that massive hole left by central government by more than doubling investment in the police, at the same time as setting up the country's violence reduction unit, make huge progress on serious violence, but still more to do in other areas as well. And where you can do a like-for-like comparison, homicide's the obvious one. Those who die from a gun is an obvious one. Violence with an injury is an obvious one, because there are objective ways of measuring those. They've all gone down.
I think it's very clear that every time I brought up knife point robbery, knife crime, the Mayor changed the subject. I think I will leave it there. It's very clear that he has spent this week and this morning gaslighting Londoners about what they see with their own eyes. Thank you, Chair.
Okay, Assembly Member Baker.
Thanks, Chair. Happy New Year, Mr Mayor. So I'd like to ask you about an action you only took yesterday, so I'm hoping you're not regretting it already. So yesterday you...
2026, Chair.
Yesterday you backed the protection of older people's travel concessions in London. There's been a huge speculation over the last week about the Older Person's Freedom Pass and a potential review by London councils of the Freedom Pass, and that gives currently free travel over retirement, state retirement age. The Freedom Pass is of huge value to older London, as we all know. The Labour Group 100% backs protecting it. So can you reassure concerned Londoners that the scheme is in national legislation for a start, and also that you don't support a review that seeks to change it?
Can I thank her for interest in this matter, and also for raising the issue of these sorts of issues on a regular basis. She will know, as somebody who takes keen interest in outer London, how important the Freedom Pass is. And the joy of the Freedom Pass is that it is what it says on the tin. It gives freedom to older people with dignity. So where are we? So the previous government, the Conservative government, wanted us to remove free travel for those above the age of 60. She'll remember it was a condition of the Conservatives helping us during the pandemic. You must remove free travel for those above the age of 60. We said no, but I was clear with Londoners, I can only pay for this by increasing council tax to pay for free travel for those above the age of 60. Also the children as well. They want us to remove that as well. So we fund from 60 to 66. We know opposition politicians want to remove free travel for those above the age of 66. There can be no other reason why you embark on a review. The good news is the Labour councils in London, there are 21 of them, reject the idea of removing free travel for those older Londoners. And there's going to be a clear choice at the ballot paper. You vote Labour in May, and you'll carry on having free travel for those above the age of 60. You flirt with one of the other parties, and there's a real risk you could lose free travel if you're an older Londoner. 1.2 million Londoners could suffer as a consequence of not voting Labour in May.
Thanks very much. That's really clear and really positive.
Assembly Member Georgiou.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. And Mr. Mayor, I hope you and your family had a lovely Christmas and Happy New Year. Right, let's get to it. Let's start, you and I, 2026. Let's get going. Mr. Mayor, TfL, of which you are the chairman, took a decision in 2025, which I hope you won't come to regret. Is that all right? There we go. So, Southgate Underground Station, a decision was taken to close it and for it to be exit only from the 5th of January 2026 to the middle of March this year. Now, there are two escalators. Alleged the works are to fix one of the escalators. There's also a staircase in the middle. So there is no good reason for it to be shut for 2.5 months. As chairman of TfL, will you look into this decision and see if we can speed up the works?
Yeah, I'm more than happy to, Chair. Just say it in a polite way, not in any way criticising the member. If colleagues ask questions that are specific, I can then respond at the question time. Otherwise, I can write back to myself. It's just I've not got the briefing, but I'm more than happy to write.
No, I appreciate it. Look, for me, you know, and it happens to be in the greatest borough of London, the London Borough of Enfield. It's obviously a very silly decision when people can enter and exit and keep passengers moving, stop ruining commuters' lives. And I would also remind you, and although this predates your time as mayor, that the 2012 London basketball arena, which has a capacity for 12,000, was built in the same time frame. So I hope that you can put some pressure on TfL to speed up the works, and I've had that commitment.
I'm more than happy, Chair, to find out more about this and make sure somebody writes to him as soon as possible.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. Now, my second question, and this is of deep regret, and funny enough, for once, I can't blame this one on you. But bank emergency nurses in many emergency departments and urgent care centres across London are faced with a 20% cut in their pay. These nurses, emergency practitioner nurses, account for 44% of full-time coverage for bank staff. So the departments impacted are very across London. They're all under one trust. This is why I'm raising it. So Barnet, North Middlesex, Whittington, the Royal Free Hospital, UCL, Chelsea and Westminster, Hammersmith. Mr. Mayor, in order that you don't regret what the government and the trust are doing here, Will you please speak to the Health Secretary and see if something can be done about this?
Look, I'm really troubled by what the members said. I'm in awe of those who work in the health service and nurses in particular. My family have benefited from bank nurses and stuff. Can I take this away? The fact that I've got no power doesn't matter. This is a really important issue to Londoners. I'll take it away and promise not only to speak to the department, maybe the minister, I'm not sure, we'll find out who the right person is and respond to him, because it clearly can't be right.
No, thank you very much for that response, Mr. Mayor, and I know that the nurses impacted by this will welcome that response from you. And I think that it should be stressed, if possible, to the Health Secretary, as you've already alluded to, you, yourself, your family members have benefited greatly within the NHS service for these bank nurses, of which they're now being accused of being agency staff, which is not right, and we shouldn't diminish their role in that way. So thank you so much for your comments, and I'm looking forward to seeing the response on that. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Assembly Member Best.
Thank you, and Happy New Year, Mr. Mayor. The hospitality and pub industry in the capital is on its knees, and so surely one of your biggest regrets is 2025, is that you stood by and said nothing whilst the national insurance contribution rise led to 100,000 job losses in the sector, mainly affecting young people. You also said nothing when the Chancellor raised alcohol duty against an unofficial statistic as well, instead of CPI, which meant that those rises next month will be 50% higher than they should have been. Will you at least make clear that you want the government's U-turn on the business rates, which they also made clear they didn't understand when they inflicted them? Will you make sure that you support that U-turn should apply to everyone in the hospitality industry, across restaurants and bars as well as pubs?
Which I'm keen not to go backwards and have a knock about the past, but I support the point she's making about the support all hospitality needs, not just pubs. It's really persuasive when you speak to not just publicans but those in hospitality about the cost of doing business. And I think one of the jobs of governments is to support them rather than be a problem. And so I can give her that assurance that one of our lobbying asks of the government is not simply to support the pubs, important though that is, but support wider hospitality as well.
Thank you. I would be concerned slightly that I think the support that you had, the fact that you don't want to, that support has only come now, and that you didn't actually want to go and have a knockabout because you know those things are indefensible and you know there's no comeback.
I'm more than happy, Chair, now to get involved in the knockabout if she wants. Look, you can't escape the fact that when interest rates go through the roof because of Liz Truss's stupid mini budget, you've got businesses who are struggling. So, when you have a hard Brexit, that leads to a lot of your staff leaving London and going back to country of origin. I mean, she wants a knockabout, Chair.
I think you referred to knockabout.
Yeah. I said you don't want to have a knockabout, and I was about to ask a question, and then you let the Mayor speak. Anyway. Mr. Mayor, the idea that the hospitality losses is nothing to do with the national insurance rise, though, that's clearly not true, is it? Will you support going back and asking the government to re-look at that?
Well, I try not to be political, but I will be political now. Look, you've got a situation where we had a pandemic that exacerbated the challenges that hospitality faced because of the stupidity of a hard Brexit. This hard Brexit meant many Londoners, originally from France or Germany or Romania or Poland or Spain or Portugal, integral to the success of our businesses, left London.
Mr. Mayor, the problem is the stupidity of this Labour government and a mayor that won't stand up for Londoners. It is clear that the national insurance contribution rise is losing jobs across the capital. It isn't just affecting the hospitality industry, it is affecting the police. It is affecting everybody in London that wants to go out and make a living for their family. Blaming that on Brexit is lazy. You know it is part of this Labour government that has made the wrong decisions, and you will still not stand up for London.
Well, maybe the member can explain why there was a deficit to the tune of £22 billion on July the 5th. A number of explanations for that massive deficit. Some of it's because of the interest the previous government's paying on debt accrued. Some of it's because of the consequences of a flatlining economy.
Mr. Mayor, I suggest that you go and look at the figures of these last 2 years and what this government has managed to do to our economy in 2 years. They have crashed it. They have taken it from the worst points of the pandemic and taken it even further into the ground. Look at the statistics of what this government has done.
Let the Mayor finish his question.
I thought you wanted a knockabout. You were about a knockabout. You're all good for the Mayor to have it, so let me have my knockabout then.
You can have another bit of knockabout. I'm going to add a bit more time on for you to have a knockabout. But Mr. Mayor, can you finish answering the question in the way that you want to answer it, and then Assembly Member Best will
You
come
answer
back.
the question in the way you want to answer it. So let him say whatever he wants, and then but you'll interrupt me.
No, that's unfair. That's unfair. Let the Mayor answer the question. You come back. How you use your time is up to you. How the Mayor answers his question is up to him.
Well, apparently
Mayor.
not, because you're intervening on me, but not the Mayor.
No, carry on, Mr. Mayor. We'll see what we do about the clock. OK.
So the government's got a choice. They've got to close this £22 billion deficit. And there are ostensibly two ways to close the deficit. You can reduce services, cut services, that reduces your expenditure, or you can raise revenues, which brings the money that comes in. And the government's done a bit of both of those things in reducing some of the service provision. People are unhappy about that. And also raising revenues. One way they've raised revenues is by an increase in national insurance contributions. None of us likes paying more taxes or national insurance. None of us likes seeing a reduction in public services. But if the government don't get on top of the deficit, don't be surprised if the markets mean we're paying more in interest, which means rather than either providing public services or tax cuts, we're having money leaving our country by going to interest rate repayments. I don't want that to happen.
Mr. Mayor, isn't it funny now you seem to have an understanding of basic economics that you didn't have 5 minutes previous? Because you seem to now understand that we have to pay for things like the NHS, we have to pay for free school meals, we have to pay for defence, when you were just arguing before that all these things really are free. This all comes from taxpayers' monies. This is real decisions the government has to make, and at the moment they're putting that on the hospitality industry, which is on its knees. So I'm glad for your support for business rates. I look forward to more support on the national insurance. Thank you.
Assembly Member McCartney.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I too regret TfL's decision to close Southgate Station. I've been making representations to them, including ideas such as entry only in the morning and exit only in the evening, but that seems to be too difficult for them. So I'm glad you're going to ask for a review. Could you ask them to look at all options that would mean that this station actually serves local people?
Yeah, I'm more than happy to do so. And can I just say, look, I'm sorry I've not got a briefing now. I'm more than happy not just to provide the information, but also the challenge you provided to look again on a pragmatic basis they can do. And I'll take on board both of the representations made and get back to both colleagues sooner rather than later, and ask TfL also to get back to both colleagues sooner rather than later.
Thank you.
Assembly Member Lord Bailey.
Thank you, Chair. Happy New Year, Mr. Mayor. Do you regret that house building in London has collapsed completely over the past year with a 73% reduction in new housing starts across London? Do you agree with me that stamp duty for primary residents should be abolished in order to help free up the housing market and get development moving?
Happy New Year as well. I tell you what's collapsed is Mayor's question time. We get all 25 questions in the first one. It's and so look, can I thank you for the questions and his greetings, and it's lovely to see him back at Mayor's question time. I do regret the crisis in the housing market across the country, housing sector across the country. It breaks my heart that there aren't enough homes being completed for those families in waiting lists and so forth. He gives one example of a stimulus that I understand why he talks as this is a way to stimulate the market in terms of encouraging people to buy. Clearly, if you're not paying stamp duty, you are encouraged to buy. I've just been lectured by his colleague to his left about the cost of public services. And so I suggest he speaks to her about the revenues the government would lose by stamp duty being cut, and then asks his colleague on his left which public services he'd like to cut as a consequence of that revenue being lost to the Treasury.
I think my colleague was referring to the fact that if you could get a market going, it would pay. Things need to be paid for. If we're going to pay for anything, housing would probably be the one that most people would pick. Look, do you think dedicated support for first-time buyers would be a good thing? It's been done before. It's stimulated the market. We need to do something different. Would you support some of that?
Look, I'm a homeowner. I'm blessed to be a homeowner, and I understand the aspiration people have to be homeowners. There are 2.7 million Londoners renting privately, and I think we've got to think about everyone in terms of housing needs. I want more council housing to be built to provide secure, affordable, good quality homes for Londoners. I want affordable homes to be built for rent and for purchase, and I want homes to be built that people can afford to buy as well. There are different views about whether Help to Buy schemes help. I think generally my anecdotal experience as an MP and a mayor is they do support first-time buyers, because that's that little bit of help you get in terms of that really makes a difference, getting over the hurdle of affordability. So I would like to look. I would like us to look in the round at what more we can do to fulfil that dream of those first-time buyers, but understanding the context, which is we've got a housing crisis with 2.7 million people living in private accommodation, and we need to really build more affordable homes.
But of course, that would ease that crisis. When we all agree that there's a crisis, I'm now talking about ways that would ease that, and we're asking for you to support them. For instance, would you help with support for renters' rental history to be taken into account when they're applying for mortgages for lowering their cost of credit in general? Because again, that would get more people into the housing market and relieve the rental market slightly.
I think that question shows his experience speaking to Londoners. He's spot on. Many Londoners rent for years and years and years and are good tenants and pay on time and all the rest of it. And it's not taken into account in terms of credit history when it comes to borrowing for a big mortgage. I'd also like mortgage companies to be more dexterous about the amount they lend. About, for example, can you give a mortgage for homes on plan? One of the reasons why foreign investors buy off-plan property is you can't get a mortgage as a Brit to buy that property off-plan, and there's an issue of cash flow for developers and the way the phasing works. There's a number of changes that can be made. My understanding is the government working with MHT looking into all these sorts of issues, and if there's a proper consultation, we're more than happy to respond, because he's spot on. There are a number of things we can do, small things that make a big difference.
Let me finish by saying this, Mayor. I wrote a report called Get London Building. I recommend it to you for bedtime reading. It is filled with the things that you could actually do, building on land that you can actually own. We're at the point now where we need to do something counter-cyclical and make a push for London.
Can I apologise? I've not read the report yet. I'll read it and stuff. And I think this cross-party working to address an issue that affects the city we love is what I'd like to see. Let me take it away and read it. Not at bedtime, but other times during the day. Thank you.
Chair.
OK, can I now bring in Assembly Member Boff?
Mr Mayor, do you regret not exercising closer oversight of the schemes you funded in Barking and Dagenham, given that this has resulted in high-rise developments that are effectively death traps, long vacant industrial blocks and residential blocks where serious construction defects, including falling balconies, have emerged?
So there are a number of processes in place in relation to the funding we secure from the government to give to developers across the city. Clearly, it's not possible when you've got the sort of projects we funded for us to micromanage all of those or inspect all of those. To give you an idea of the scale of homes that have been built since my mayoralty, 116,000 started, between 80 and 86,000 completed between 2016 and 2023. We're now supporting a further 17,000 odd homes. We simply can't, from City Hall, inspect all of those. Where there are breaches, rules not followed, issues, there is provision to claw back any grant funding we have given, and also remedial action we can take. So if there's any particular cases the member has, I'm more than happy for him to let me know what they are, and we'll look into them.
Well, there is 12 Thames Road. There is Industria, the development that you supported as well, and there is the Weavers' Quarter. All of those developments are disasters, and it's down to, and all of them were supported by you. In fact, in terms of Industria, you gave them £1 million to look at the design and development of Industria, the warehouse in Barking. And that design and development resulted in them putting in the wrong sprinkler system, making it almost impossible for it to be used as a warehouse. Back in February 2024, Mr Mayor, the Assembly made a unanimous recommendation to you that you should investigate your investments in Barking and Dagenham you declined and said it's not my problem, Gov. Do you think it really is your problem that you are throwing money at boroughs that have demonstrated they have no ability to spend it wisely?
Well, Chair, there's lots of issues there raised, and I'll have you give me the time to respond to the various issues that have been raised by the member. So City Hall, Land and Property Fund projects, not just that councils are responsible for, not just that housing associations are responsible for, not just that development corporations are responsible for, not just that developers are responsible for, not just that small developers are responsible for, cooperatives and so forth. So it's simply not realistic for the City Hall team to be inspecting from start to finish every single scheme.
With respect, Mr Mayor, I'm not asking you to do every single scheme. I really am not. And neither did the Assembly unanimously in 2024. They said, look at Barking and Dagenham. Its record is appalling. And yet you've decided that you don't want to do that. So to end this quickly, Mr Mayor, if you could write to me and re-look at that recommendation from the Assembly back in February 2024, and just write to me as to whether or not you regret not taking more action.
No, Chair, I'd like to respond now. So we've got 32 boroughs in London and a detailed history of devolution. The idea that the GLA will be acting intra-virus going into a council, we've got no locus to take over the building enforcement role, building control role is nonsense.
You
simply haven't got the ability
to have the power to decide which boroughs to fund. That's in your responsibility.
So the members raised issues of building control, essentially. And the issue is, why didn't the building control in a respective borough check that the conditions of planning were met by the developer? The problem is, in this particular case, from what he's said just now, that conditions were put down on the developer, they weren't followed through. That's a building control issue rather than an issue for GLA officers.
Well, it clearly wasn't in the case of Industria, but I'll end there.
OK, Assembly Member Arani.
Thank you, Chair. I'm just following up on an issue raised a few minutes ago about the Freedom Pass, and I too welcome your actions as Mayor of London to support the Labour Council leaders across London's decision to protect the Freedom Pass. And as Mayor, you've also continued to fund in every year of your mayoralty the over 60s Oyster card concession, something which I hope you have no regrets about. Now, one of the things that has emerged from the whole debate about the Freedom Pass is the confusion about how different concessions are funded, whether it's the Freedom Pass, which is obviously through London councils, but also the over 60s, the 60-plus Oyster card, which is something funded through TfL. So given the concern that there has been amongst Londoners, there have been various petitions and responses to some of the press articles, can you reassure Londoners that the over 60s scheme, which is funded through TfL, will remain in place?
So the member raised a really important point, which is the Freedom Pass that the councils fund are for those who are essentially retirement age, as far as the state pension is concerned. From City Hall, we fund the Freedom Pass for those above the age of 60 up until retirement age. And I think it's a lifeline for those Londoners of 60 years and plus. And also, for the avoidance of doubt, I am a believer in it being a universal provision for those above the age of 60. As long as I am mayor, that will carry on being the case. I can't speak for members of other political parties who we know, not just from the events of recent weeks, but from the events of the previous Conservative government, want to take away free travel, not just for those above the age of 60, we've discovered recently, from those above the age of 66 as well.
Assembly Member Georgiou again.
Thank you very much, Mr Chairman. Mr Mayor, this is another one where I hope we can avoid regret going into 2020. Well, we're in 2026. You rightly promote London as a living wage city, yet people working directly for City Hall are being priced out of our city. I've spoken to City Hall staff who say they're now facing the reality of having to leave their roles, not because they want to, because they do love working here, but because they can no longer afford to live in London and pay their rent and various other bills. How can Londoners trust City Hall to lead on fair pay when its own workforce is experiencing a real terms pay cut? And what will you do to ensure City Hall, its arm's-length bodies and contractors pay wages that actually allow people to live in London?
Well, it's good to see the conversion of the Conservative Party to tackling the issue of fair pay and supporting those who are suffering the cost of living crisis. We've been talking about this for a number of years now, about the cost of living in London. That's one of the reasons why, for example, I've frozen bus fares for 6 years opposed.
I'm talking about pay.
Well,
I mean, I know you're all talk.
How does he think workers get to work?
I know you like to talk. What are you going to do about it? You always got an answer for something, always some clever, witty response. Come on, then. What are you going to do about it?
It's like being 7 years old again in the playground with an inadequate 3-year-old to deal with.
Inadequate? That's outrageous. But anyway, carry on. Come on. What are you going to do?
I think we should put that to the vote.
Enough. Oh, definitely enough for Leonie Cooper. But right, come on. Enough chit-chat. What are you going to do?
So in the question asked by the member, he talked about the challenges about living in London. One of the reasons why it's a challenge is the cost of living. So to ameliorate the cost of living in London and the challenges, we've frozen bus fares. They're the cheapest in the country.
He's detracted from pay, Mr. Chairman. I'll leave it there.
And it helps the poorest Londoners get from home to work. We've also, by the way, since I've been mayor, increased sixfold the number of employers paying the
What
London
does this have to do with City Hall pay, Mr. Chairman?
It was less than £10
City Hall
when I
pay?
became mayor, and it's now more
City
than £14.
Hall pay? He got a nice chunky pay rise. What about City Hall staff?
And it's now more than £14 because of the living wage. And City Hall is now a living wage employer, not just those who are directly employed, but contractors as well. That's the difference we're making. I mean, it doesn't end there. Many of the workers in City Hall have children who are benefiting from a free school meal because of our policies. I don't regret that at all. Okay, and many of them may well live in a council home because we've built record numbers since I became mayor.
I think we get the gist of your answer in terms of that. OK, right. Any more for this section? Because then I'll give you a progress report of how far we've got. Now, the Conservatives have nearly out of their time, and we've only just finished, just for the benefit of the audience, the first question around that. So I just want to give you that issue, and I just want then, before we begin with the next set of questions, welcome Year 8 staff and students for the Jamatal Umar School in Whitechapel, Tower Hamlets, and they're in the audience. OK, right, let's go back in terms of the next. The next question is in the name of Assembly Member Roberts.
Can I thank the member for his question? Ensuring sufficient funding for police in London is vital to ensuring the Met Police Service can continue to make the improvements needed to bear down on crime and keep London safe. However, the Met faces significant challenges due to the consequences of 14 years of austerity under the previous government and coalition government before that, who between 2010 and 2025 in real terms cut the Met Police budget by £1.2 billion, around a third of the Met's core budget. In contrast, I continue to pull every lever available to boost funding to the Met. To support the police and fight crime, I've taken the difficult decision to raise the police precept by the maximum allowed each year. Only a third of police and crime commissioners have done so, and I've also provided additional funding from business rates. The result is that mayoral police funding this year at £1.16 billion is more than double what my predecessor allocated in his last year in the role. My share of police funding has increased from 19% when I was first elected to 25%, while the government's share has fallen. Whilst I continue to do all I can to support the Met, policing is fundamentally funded from national taxation. I'll continue to work with the government to help secure additional funding for the Met, to keep more officers on the streets and help fund the unique responsibilities the Met has in policing the nation's capital. In developing the 2026 and 2027 budget, which covers the next 3 years, we've had to consider the increased pressures and demands on the Met, whilst prioritising the vital reforms the Commissioner set out, including in the new Met for London Plan 2. Following the announcement of the provisional grant settlement, the budget's now been reviewed, and the updated position will be included in my draft budget due to be published shortly. This is, of course, an iterative process, and we're continuing to work with the Home Office ahead of the final police settlement early next month, which will determine the eventual outcome. Meanwhile, MOPAC and I continue to work hard to further improve the Met's financial management and the effectiveness with which it uses the funds available to it. The Met will always need to make careful choices about how it uses its resources to deliver for Londoners in a way that provides value for money, but under my oversight, it is doing so with sustained City Hall support.
Thank you, Mr Mayor, and Happy New Year to you. Could I ask, you mentioned the mayoral precept for the police. Do you expect to increase that by the maximum for the forthcoming financial year?
Without preempting and being told off for speaking in advance of the draft budget being allocated, my record for the last 8 years is to support the maximum I can, the police service, so you can take from that.
Thank you. On the estate strategy, we've seen that the estate strategy has a capital funding shortfall of £1.7 billion. Are you expecting the Met Police to have to make further tough choices in the years ahead in order to meet that demand?
Yes, it's a really shrewd question. There are two ways for us to pay for capital. One is revenues, which obviously leads to the concern that he's got. Second is to borrow. So I can't answer that today. Just to reassure him, the Met Police Service, and third is government, of course. Just to reassure him that the Met Police Service is doing whatever it can to find alternatives to revenue money being used for capital for the reasons he's concerned about.
Thank you. Just turning to disposals of police estates, which have been listed in the estate strategy. I understand that we won't be seeing any disposals in the current financial year. In the next financial years, can you commit to ensuring that there's going to be buildings sold with community benefit in mind rather than directly to developers?
Yeah, so the good news is, I mean, he and I have discussed this briefly at a committee meeting. We've now got clarity we can do so. There's a definition which he's well aware of and stuff. Just a word to the wise, obviously this may limit the monies that come in,
yes, of course.
Which obviously is one of the things we ought to consider. The other thing, just to reassure him about, because he raised this at Police and Crime Committee, is the Police Service will endeavour to have an annual estates delivery plan, which will give him the sort of certainty and clarity I think he's been asking for the last time I met him at the PCC anyway.
Thank you. Moving on to police numbers, we've received information from local contacts that not only as part of the redeployment of PCSOs no longer doing red route traffic enforcement, but there may be plans to cut as many as 450 PCSOs from London's police service over the coming years. Is that a number that you recognise as Police Commissioner?
No, it's not.
No. Okay. Thank you. One final question by the time which I have available. We have written to Matt Twist and the Deputy Mayor for clarification. It'd be useful if you could encourage them to reply as soon as possible. Yesterday we heard from representatives from Safer Neighbourhood Boards and various voluntary groups in London. MOPAC is taking the decision to take responsibility for Safer Neighbourhood Board management and funding away from MOPAC and hand it over to the Metropolitan Police Service directly. Given that Safer Neighbourhood Boards are there to scrutinise local delivery of policing services, is it a wise move to put them directly under control of the Metropolitan Police Service?
I'm sure he's raised this with MOPAC and they'll be responding in due course. I mean, just my experience of Safer Neighbourhood Boards is some are excellent, some are not great. And there is an issue about how the police service and the Mayor's Office of Police and Crime better engage with Londoners. I think that's one of the issues raised at the committee hearing this week. I think a one-size-fits-all doesn't work. Yeah. I think one of the things we've seen in the recent past, it wasn't always the case with previous commissioners, is the engagement that not just local police officers, but the senior team are now doing, not least exemplified by the engagement with the new Met for London Plan 2. I think we've got to think about different ways to engage with different Londoners, particularly those who aren't the usual suspects. He and I both have experience of the usual suspects coming forward, which is great, and that's to be lauded. What about those who are, inverted commas, underserved? The old phrase was hard to reach. How do we reach them? Yeah. I'm not sure Safer Neighbourhood Board is the right way, but his challenge to me is, are the Met Police being in charge of this the right way? Let me take that away, but also make sure that he gets a response from MOPAC on that.
Thank you. And very quickly, if you can just answer shortly, because I'm aware of time, is that when things go to the Metropolitan Police and they make cuts, we hear that that's an operational decision over which you have no control. Can you guarantee that there will not be funding cuts to Safer Neighbourhood Boards when they're under the control of the Metropolitan Police?
Chair, why don't I, when I respond to him in relation to his challenge about the money's been lost from MOPAC to Police Service, also get back to him in relation to this, because he's right in terms of, there's got to be some reciprocity in relation to City Hall giving additional funds to Met Police Service. And so let me take that away and respond in the spirit with which it's asked.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you. Thank you, Chair.
Yes, good morning. Briefly, Mr Mayor. Met Police community support officers doing red route enforcement are outside protesting a choice by the Met. They have been, many of them, employed by the Met for over 20 years. They're being TUPE'd over to TfL. So are you concerned that TfL is outsourcing these specially trained and experienced public sector workers to the private sector?
Well, it's difficult to respond to that question shortly. I'll do my best. So TfL engages on a contractual basis with the Met Police Service to provide services that are ring-fenced for roads and transport control. What's happened is this commissioner wants to prioritise the sort of crimes we've talked about in the last hour and 15 minutes and do less of the sort of transport stuff for reasons that I understand. TfL unreasonably want to get value for money with the money they're spending for traffic enforcement. So TfL have made the decision to, rather than ask the Met Police Service to do this work, and the Met Police Service may take the resources away from red routes elsewhere for operational reasons, to contract with somebody else to provide enforcement on Transport for London road networks.
I do get all of that. I've been into all of the detail of that, but before asking the question, the point is it's about insourcing. There is still time to stop it, but I'll leave it there.
I'm now going to call on our next questioner is Assembly Member Prince.
Sorry, Chair, just lost track of this. Question 3, are we?
Yeah.
Okay, it's just...
Yeah.
So in 2019, initial hybrid planning consent was secured for 3,000 homes. In November 2023, the Beam Park Housing Scheme secured a revised planning consent. It is now on-site and underway. Beam Park Station remains a key priority to enable further housing and regeneration within the London Riverside Opportunity Area. When delivered, it will unlock around 4,000 homes and deliver wider placemaking and economic benefits for the local community. In 2020, I allocated £32.7 million to support the delivery of this critical piece of infrastructure. My offices are currently refreshing the transport modelling undertaken last year following advice from Department for Transport and Network Rail to reflect post-COVID travel patterns and recent cost inflation. This work is essential to ensure the Beam Park Station can be delivered within budget and operational requirements. To support this, 3 technical studies are underway in collaboration with DfT, Network Rail, C2C and TfL. These include an updated timetable and performance analysis, a demand and revenue study, and a station design, programme and cost plan review. Once these studies are complete, there will be a period of engagement with stakeholders, including with DfT, around the impact on the wider network of opening a new station. The work currently being undertaken will enable DfT and the GLA to assess these impacts and identify mitigations before final decisions made to proceed with the station to support this vital regeneration opportunity. In parallel, my team are working closely with Network Rail on cost efficiencies to mitigate the impact of inflation on the budget. Subject to the outcome of all this work, I hope to reach a mayoral decision on this project later this year. Delivering Beam Park Station is not just about transport, it's the key to unlocking thousands of homes, including affordable housing and driving regeneration in the London Riverside Opportunity Area.
Well, that is quite good news, I think. Are you saying that you believe you do have sufficient funds to actually deliver the station? We saw, I think it was last week, the week before, we now have planning permission for the ticket offices. It'd be nice to have the rest of the station to go with them, really.
Just to remind others, he'll know this, but those watching this who are interested in this, if he remembers, the previous government withdrew support for Beam Park Station. We've worked assiduously with he said Tories, Chair, not me, with the DfT, great team now, and Network Rail and others. Some of the feasibility work we're doing is in relation to freight, how many trains would go there. Obviously, the money I set aside was then. There may be increases now. We need to get this done. The reason we've got to get it done is there's a Grampian condition that we can't build more homes unless the station's there. That was a condition of planning, so it'd be perverse if we couldn't proceed. I'm hopeful we can get there. I'll make sure he's kept informed, even if it's offline, about progress, because I know there's lots of interest locally in this issue. It would seem to me, ridiculous if we can't get this done.
Well, again, I hope that is good news. Unfortunately, we both know that there are issues when TfL get involved in delivering projects. Can I just move it on to the SL12 route? And could you consider, rather than it terminating in Rainham, as it currently intended to, could that be extended to serve Bean Park as well? And certainly, you know, on a temporary basis, that would help to alleviate issues, and that would then give people from Bean Park direct access to Queen's Hospital.
Chair, I'm always more than happy when the member makes suggestions to look into them, because they're often very sensible. So he will know the 174, 287, 365 serves Bean Park, but if there's another bus service, the SL12, that can serve them, let me take that away.
Thank you very much.
We now move to the next question in the name of Assembly Member Russell.
Thank you for your question. Reducing road danger is not just a moral obligation, it's central to creating a city where people feel confident to walk, cycle and travel sustainably. That's why tackling road danger is central to our transport strategy, and why TfL takes decisive action after every serious incident. Since my Vision Zero action plan was launched in 2018, TfL, in collaboration with the London boroughs and the Met Police, has delivered real, tangible progress to make London streets safer, and I want to thank the Assembly member for her support on this issue. This includes delivering 20 miles per hour schemes, building safer junctions and new cycleways, and ensuring the highest vision standards for HGVs. The result of these actions is 24% fewer people killed or seriously injured in London in 2024 compared to the 2010-2014 baseline. This is a reduction of 1,162 people injured in that year alone. TfL monitors collisions on its network and focuses investment through its Safe and Healthy Streets programme. TfL also continuously looks at data to identify the most high-risk locations of the network to ensure it makes the most effective interventions. If a fatal collision on the TfL road network does occur, TfL has a dedicated process. This includes carrying out a Go Look See, where TfL officers go to the location to determine whether the location is safe and if any assets need repairing. TfL also has a proactive and comprehensive highway inspection regime. In addition, TfL officers also aim to undertake a site visit with the Met Police Service to observe behaviours of road users and understand the circumstances of the collision. If any initial observations are made which require minor changes, such as additional signage or road markings, these are actioned. These steps ensure that TfL can learn from any tragic incidents and take measures to improve safety. TfL will also await the outcome of any police investigation before bringing forward any significant proposals for the location. Speed is the single most important factor in the likelihood and severity of a collision, with collision data showing that the faster a vehicle is travelling, the more likely a collision and the more severe an injury will be. That's why 267 kilometres of TfL's road network is now covered by 20 miles per hour, delivered through its Lowering Speeds programme. TfL is also committed to supporting people impacted by incidents on London's road with its long-term road victim support service and the Zero Hope line. I'm pleased that the government's now published their road safety strategy, and this will be followed up shortly by TfL's Vision Zero action plan.
Thank you, Mr Mayor, and I want to pick up on behaviour. On Monday, I visited Kenworthy Road in Hackney, where Harry Webb, a 27-year-old music student, was hit and killed by a driver doing more than 50 miles an hour in a 20 mph speed limit. This was just over 2 years ago. Kenworthy Road has heavy traffic, bleak, high-speed roads at each end, speeding north to Stansted and south towards Blackwall Tunnel. There are streets like this all across London. Given the expense and length of time taken to physically transform hostile roads like this, will your Vision Zero Action Plan 2 include plans to address the culture of unsafe driving in London?
Which I also met Harry's parents with Caroline, and it's thought-provoking and demands we take action. In relation to Kenworthy Road, I think we need to do better than just deliver a crossing, so we're doing work in relation to this. I know she's being kept abreast of progress there. Can I take away her challenge about culture and how we can change culture? She'll have heard, hopefully, on the radio and elsewhere some of the things TfL are trying to do to change and make people aware, particularly drivers and so forth. So let's take away what more we can do to change culture. But again, any ideas she's got, TfL, when it comes to the partnership work she's doing, more than happy to work with her about these sorts of issues.
Yeah, I think what's really important is that these roads are made safe for the communities that are living alongside them, and that they're not just treated like motorways for people passing through. The communities remember the people who die in in their local streets. And sometimes it just feels like TfL has almost forgotten them. So we just need real action to make a shift on here. But I need to, yeah.
I would just push back that TfL's rejected their views and stuff. That's a bit unfair. But TfL,
what I mean is TfL gets it. TfL understands Vision Zero. But I was told about a woman who had died in the same location back in 2010, Mrs. Murphy. Her name is still remembered by people living nearby where Harry Webb was also killed. It is, there is trauma on our streets, and I'm just trying to express the urgency for us to take real action. Thank you.
No, can I thank the member for the work she does with us on this issue? Thank you.
Assembly Member Mahima.
Thank you, Chair, and Happy New Year, Mayor Khan. I just wanted to follow on off the back of Assembly Member Russell's question to you with specific reference to Kenworthy Road and that particular part of Hackney Wick. So I have in the last couple of years had a fair bit of casework, including, and so TfL have been very good to undertake site visits and really, and just to say those, the walkabouts that were conducted were at the request of local residents, primarily to talk about some of the issues that Assembly Member Russell has mentioned and some solutions. So there has been some support and some sympathy from TfL, but I really do echo Assembly Member Russell's point about timeliness of some of those responses. So I think in one particular case, 2 years out, some traffic calming, which I think would have really mitigated some of the issues you've raised, and full sympathies to Harry's family, but that action still hasn't happened. So I would just really want to see a shortening of that time between residents kind of raising issues and those solutions being put in place. There's still a consultation waiting to be started, for example, 2 years on.
Chair, can I thank the member for her assiduous campaign on this particular issue in her patch? She'll be aware there have been initial measures designed and there's been a road safety review undertaken, but it's taken too long. And she's right. I mean, Harry was killed in 2023. Can I take this away in terms of how we can expedite this, taking on board the concerns local residents have articulated both to her and to Assembly Member Russell? And can I undertake to get back in touch with both of you in relation to an update progress? And again, when you meet bereaved families, it's a privilege, but it also demands that we take action sooner rather than later. So let me take this away.
Okay, just let's give you an update of the progress we're making so far. We are making some progress. We've got the next questions that have been withdrawn, just for your notes, is budget in the name of Krupa Sharani. That's been withdrawn. Funding of transport projects, Neil Garrett, has been withdrawn. And I understand further Conservatives, the question in the name of Andrew Boff on car clubs has been withdrawn, as well as a house building under Assembly Member Lord Bailey. So let's plough on. Our next question to deal with is tackling theft. Assembly Member Ahmed.
Can I thank the member for her question? I'm determined to do more to tackle theft in London, including mobile phone theft. And I know it's one of the crimes Londoners are most concerned about. When a phone is stolen, it's not just the loss of a device. People lose precious photographs, important messages and vital contacts. While there was a rise in theft-based crime following the pandemic and the years that followed, without being complacent or satisfied, recent data shows that focused action is beginning to deliver results. The Met's most recent figures for theft from a person and personal robbery show that in the 12 months to November 2025, the number of offences were down by 10.9% and 15.1% respectively compared to the same period the previous year. Boosted by record investment from City Hall, the Met has been taking action and has strengthened its response by developing focused operations in hotspot locations across London where theft is most prevalent. This intelligence-led approach, supported by visible patrols at peak times, has helped to disrupt offending and target prolific criminals. Last year, the Met conducted the largest operation of its kind in UK history to tackle mobile phone theft, Operation Reckoning. Officers disrupted a major criminal network suspected to have smuggled up to 40,000 stolen phones from the UK to China, and I was able to see firsthand how the Met are going after the leaders of international smuggling gangs, as well as street thieves fueling this industrial-scale crime. The Met's also seized 2,500 e-bikes and e-scooters as part of a crackdown on criminals using these high-speed cycles to snatch mobile phones and commit robberies. The Met will continue to spearhead targeted police work. From City Hall, MOPAC convenes the Reducing Robbery Partnerships, which brings together the Met, local authorities, the Home Office, British Transport Police and other partners to coordinate robbery prevention. MOPAC also represents London at the Home Office's Phone Theft Working Group. But there's no doubt the police cannot do this work alone. Criminals are making millions by repurposing stolen phones and selling them abroad. It's simply too easy and too profitable. That's why I continue to work with the government, the police and mobile phone companies to push them to go harder and faster in designing out phone theft by making any stolen devices unusable.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. And Operation Reckoning has had a positive impact on my own constituency in Lambeth and Southwark, and I've seen the results of that myself. Just with regard to designing out mobile phone theft, so as we know, nobody steals a phone usually because of the phone. They certainly wouldn't steal mine. It's a bit too battered. It is for the data. And you've talked often about the conversations that you're having with mobile phone companies. Can you tell us how that's proceeding, please?
Well, first, the phones are stolen actually because of the value of the phone. You can sell these things for £1,000, £2,000. They cost £1,000. And the reason why you can sell them for decent sums of money is because you can use them. And, the Operation Reckoning, some of the work that I saw were dozens of thieves and robbers on the streets, and it worked up a pyramid to them being exported once they were stolen. A very sophisticated operation from a serious organised criminal group. So it's happened on an industrial scale because phones have become more valuable. That's one of the reasons you've seen a massive increase in phone thefts across all the cities, main cities in Europe. So when you say designing out crime, there are things that we think the phone companies can be doing. Yes, we'll carry on doing more on enforcement. But think about car stereos. In yesteryear, it was common for windows to be popped, car stereos to be stolen and taken away. Work with manufacturers, we now have in the dashboard stereos, they can't be taken out. Tom-toms used to be stolen. Again, building in sat-navs made the design out that crime. Well, we think there's things phone companies can do. One, have a kill switch. So if I report my phone is stolen, that phone can no longer be used by the operator or the phone company killing that phone. So there's no point stealing it. Or denying access to the cloud if the phone's not being used by the original registered user. Or having a visible number plate on the phone so you can check whether that phone's yours, it's been stolen, and so forth. And so we are persuading these companies to do a lot more because we think they've got a responsibility to help us make stolen phones useless. At the moment, they're not useless. They're worth a lot of money.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Could you tell us whether you think that mobile phone theft should be classified as a crime in its own right, to give us an idea of the level of thefts across the UK?
I've not given that much thought, but I mean, a lot of the personal robberies taking place in London are of mobile phones. A lot of the personal theft taking place in London are of mobile phones. Actually, the criminal law is adequate to deal with somebody who tries to steal your phone or does steal your phone. So there's no, for the purpose of charge and prosecution, I don't think it makes a big difference. It may make a difference in terms of knowing how bad the problem is. But again, without speaking to the police about the impact on, how easy is it to input it being a phone being stolen or something else. And so I'm not sure is the answer. I'm more than happy to take it away and ask MOPAC to speak to the police about this.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Thank you, Chair.
Thanks for the question. I'm pleased that the government has agreed to give new powers to London and other English regions to charge a modest tourist levy. This is something that I've long called for, and is another example of this government listening, a stark contrast to the previous government who held back devolution. London is the gateway to the UK, accounting for over half of all international visits and welcoming close to 20 million visitors each year who come to experience our world-class museums and galleries, visit our historic attractions and enjoy an amazing array of events. International cities like New York, from New York to Paris and hundreds of smaller cities across the world have long benefited from a tourist levy. Introducing one in London would level the playing field by ensuring further investment in the capital, which would then contribute to further growth. All the major hotel chains and accommodation websites represented in London have collected accommodation levies in other global cities for many years. As such, many businesses will be familiar with the use of a tourist levy as a way to raise funds. A tourist levy, in my view, is a virtuous circle. Providing London with the power to collect and retain a levy will generate sustainable revenue to reinvest back into London's economy and will ultimately lead to a better tourist experience in the city, meaning increased tourism and growth for businesses. This will be a major win for London and the UK, helping to drive growth, attract new visitors, create new jobs and boost the UK's global standing and competitiveness. The government's formal consultation on the levy will close next month, and I encourage all London stakeholders to submit their own responses. It's worth saying that we already work closely with the hospitality and cultural sector, and my team is in regular contact with key stakeholders across the sector on this issue. Once the government set out their response to the consultation, we'll outline our plans for consulting more formally with the sector and more widely with London's businesses and local authorities as we develop our plans for the levy in London.
Happy New Year, Mr Mayor, and congratulations on securing this new tourism levy for London, and really welcome in terms of the confirmation that you've just given there in terms of further consultation beyond the government's one that's happening at the moment in terms of with the sector and with other key stakeholders. Now, if I was comparing, as an analogy, using website names to compare your approach to tourism with the Tory one, yours would certainly be visitlondon.com, where it was, we've already heard today, the Tories are very much confused.com. Under your predecessor and under one of your previous competitors, Lord Bailey and, of course, Boris Johnson, they, in their manifestos, set out that they wanted to support a tourism levy, and we've heard from them this morning that they actually seem to now oppose it. If their approach was a suitcase, it would be a suitcase full of flip-flops, wouldn't it? But on the other hand, what we... I know that they love my questions. So, on the other hand, what we've seen earlier today, look, the reality is, under your leadership, since 2016, London has been a top three destination year after year after year. In November, London was voted the best city to live and work in, and of course, on TripAdvisor, again for this year, best city in the world to visit. So, look, Mr Mayor, how will the tourism levy support the hospitality sector, protect jobs and create growth?
Well, I mean, he's right. The member's right to remind us all. I mean, some try and talk down our city for political gain, and shame on them to talk down our capital city. He's right to talk up our city. Why would a tourist, a visitor, an investor, a student come here if they believe the nonsense spewed by some who hate our capital city? So he's right to remind us of the objective, independent plaudits we've received from a number of independent organisations. We are the tourist capital of the world. We can't be complacent. And that's why a tourism levy is so important, because we've got to make sure we understand that there's competition. You may choose to look at another city on a website to go to, and if you've seen nonsense comments about how terrible City A is versus City B, you'll choose City B. And so we've got to invest, not just in terms of talking about city, but in terms of public realm, in terms of those parts of our city where tourists don't currently go. So we're going to work with the boroughs about what we can do to encourage more tourism there as well. The key thing is to speak to those in the industry, those in tourism, those in hospitality, what we can do to increase the offer and what we can do to make London even more enticing for tourists going forward.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. And in October, when I asked you on this question, on the question of the tourism tax, you said you liked my optimism. When I asked you in October about the tourism tax, you said that you liked my optimism. What reasons are there for Londoners to be optimistic about the tourism levy coming in?
Well, he was talking up this before it had been agreed by the government, which is why I was a bit nervous, and he was a bit optimistic about the possibility of having this. We've now got it, so you're allowed to be optimistic about us getting the tourism levy because the government's now consulting. I think it's very important that we listen to the response to the consultation. We'll do our own consultation to work with various parts of this sector. But I'm really confident, because if you think we're number one and we're the only city, in that sort of league table that's not got a tourism levy, imagine the enhancement we can give with a tourist levy. But also it gives us certainty going forward about revenue streams, which is really important when it comes to investing in big infrastructure that will help tourists come here, but also mean their experience is a better one.
Thank you very much.
Of Assembly Member Mohima.
Can I thank the member for a question? Social housing is the key to building a better and fairer city for everyone. Having grown up in a council estate, I know how important it is to be raised in secure, quality and affordable housing. That's why I'm proud to have secured £11.7 billion of funding for the new London Social and Affordable Homes programme, which will be a majority social rent programme. The 10-year programme is the largest funding settlement London's ever had over the longest period and will provide the funding certainty and capital grant funding that the affordable housing sector needs. Housing and economic growth are inextricably linked, and the member is right to highlight that in addition to providing secure, affordable homes, social housing has many wider benefits to the economy. In 2023, we jointly commissioned research with London councils that showed that a 1% increase in housing affordability in London could yield a boost of £7.3 billion in economic output over a decade. That's why our new London plan will have the dual priorities of housing and economic growth. I'm proud that we've increased affordable housing delivery significantly since I became mayor. The average affordable housing percentage in referable applications increased from 25% in 2016 to 42% in 2023 and 46% by habitable rooms. Since 2018, more than 25,000 council homes have been built or are being built with the help of City Hall funding, and I'm aiming for 40,000 by the end of 2030. There's no doubt that housing delivery across the country, including London, is facing many challenges, and I'm doing everything I can to address these. In October, working with the government, we announced several emergency housing measures to support house building in London. These are intended to unlock delivery of homes of all tenures, including social rented homes, but it doesn't stop there. I'll continue to work with the government, councils, housing associations, developers and others to help ensure London's social and affordable housing sector is in the best financial position to build new affordable and social homes and boost economic growth across the capital.
Thank you, Mayor Khan. As we know, London's social homes contribute around £6.9 billion annually to the UK economy, and I guess it's really important to think about not just the homes that people live in, but also the wider ecosystem, the supply chains that constant supply really supports across the country. So it's also, and I'm really glad that you've also referenced the fact that that economic support is not just about the contractors and the developers, but it's also about those people who are living in those homes, who the very fact that they're in a social home means that they have more disposable income, and it supports them establishing themselves as active, productive citizens, and those households can be much more self-sustaining. So with that in mind, I just wanted to really understand what steps you're able to take to protect and grow the contribution from London to the wider economic growth of the country, because I think that's really, really essential. You've mentioned the 7-to-1 ratio there.
Can I thank the member for reminding us of the other benefits not talked about of having a home for a long period of time? Putting, those ties and the roots in the community are so important for a variety of reasons. So yes, of course, we want to support the economy where the brick's made. Where's the cement made? Where's the plaster made? So forth. We're helping the supply chain across the country. A number of things we're going to do to support house building. In addition to the money secured from the government in terms of the London Social and Affordable Homes programme, we've set up a London Housing Mission Board, which is co-chaired by a Deputy Mayor from City Hall and obviously and the Housing Lead from London Councils. This is a partnership approach, and the London Housing Mission Board is so incredibly important. The New London Plan will be incredibly important. We've published towards a new development, a New London Plan. We'll be working with the sector about what the London Plan should have in it that supports housing, also economic growth as well. She will be aware because she lobbied for this and we were successful. We've now got more than £322 million from the government for a City Hall Developer Investment Fund. One of the key things we've got to do is unlock those stalled sites. Permissions granted, construction's begun, but they've stalled. What can we do to unlock those stalled sites? And finally, we've got to work even closer with the government. MHCLG are integral to the success of this endeavour. And the point we're trying to make to the government is, generally new affordable homes in London are just in of itself of great value to the families who will be rehoused there. They benefit a wider economy for the reasons that you've set out.
And really briefly, so that 322 million for the City Hall developer makes my heart sing. And oh, I'm cut off time. Okay, sorry. Okay, I will stop there.
The next question is the name of Assembly Member James Small Edwards.
For that, the member for his question, the New London Plan will aim to provide additional clarity and certainty to developers to help support delivery on small sites. While this will benefit all developers by providing a clearer and more navigable planning process, it should particularly support small and medium-sized developers, given their funding models can be most at risk to unexpected costs and delays, and they can find the planning system more complex to navigate. I'm aware of research that shows that the amount of development carried out by small and medium-sized builders has reduced in recent years. One option that the London Plan team is exploring is the development of a London-wide small site design code. This option was highlighted in the Towards a New London Plan consultation in June last year, and it could be one way to help provide greater certainty through the planning process for different types of small sites developments. The City Hall team are also exploring how mid-rise development can be further encouraged and supported across London. This type of development should play a key role in helping to optimise the use of land and deliver the housing London needs in a sustainable way. With this in mind, the team is looking at how best the new London Plan can provide greater clarity about that sort of development. These options aim to complement work that has already been undertaken to support small site development via our Small Sites, Small Builders programme, and this programme helps to activate development on small sites and funds due diligence to de-risk small sites. It also provides public landowners with a proportionate approach to competitive disposal of such sites to smaller builders.
Thank you very much, Mr Mayor, and Happy New Year. As you said, in the UK and London, housing delivery can often be dominated by quite a small number of large house builders. And so with that greater planning certainty that the design codes could potentially provide, do you agree with me that that could help more small and medium-sized house builders to enter the market and hopefully increase the overall number of homes that we're building?
Well, look, can I thank him for being a champion for small builders in London. We've listened to what they're saying. One of the things they're saying is that the importance of clarity and certainty. He'll be aware from the meetings he has is the worst thing in the world is to spend a lot of time on a project as a small builder and then don't get permission, don't make progress. And so the advice we've received is a design code rather than design guidance is important. It's really important also that councils understand the importance of supporting small builders. So we're more than happy for London boroughs to be able to refine any such codes at a local level, and that's one of the reasons why this process this year is so important, because we want to be supporting small builders, particularly building those small sites.
Yeah, and I think, like you say, getting it down to that local level is important, because I think it then ensures that the houses that are coming forward are acceptable to local people. So you don't get a situation where there's pushback once those houses start going up. Another change that's come through, which will affect the London Plan and house building in London, is the government's NPPF changes, which are out for consultation at the minute, with suggestions of a default yes within 800 metres of train stations at minimum densities. Do you welcome this change, and are you going to make an assessment of how many homes that could potentially unlock in London?
I think it's a potential game changer when you, particularly add in, on top of this, the new powers around MDOs that we could have as well. I mean, if there's good public transport, that means your ability to build homes, good quality homes, at high densities increased, but also you don't need to be as worried as you would otherwise about car park spaces and so forth. I think there's a real potential here for us to make progress in relation to the additional homes that Londoners are crying out for. And it just shows the government understands the importance of some dexterity. A one-size-fits-all approach for London just won't work. We've got some great public transport in some parts of our city. Those are opportunities for us to build good quality, high-density homes.
I think it's the case around quite a number of Elizabeth Line stations as well. Thank you very much, Mr Mayor. Thank you, Chair.
OK, I'd like to propose that the Assembly now adjourn to 10 minutes just for a comfort break and return at the
11:56, Chair.
11:56, where we'll continue with the remaining business on the agenda. Are the Assembly members content? In agreement? I shouldn't say content. Thank you.
Okay, so they're going off for a break for 10 minutes, so go and grab yourself a coffee, go for a cigarette, walk the dog, nip up the shops, get a paper, whatever you need to do. Thank you very much, everyone, for joining and watching along this morning. It is much appreciated. I will leave this screen up, and as soon as they come back, we'll be rejoining everyone. Thank you again. Okay, everyone, we've got about 2 minutes until we're back on. Probably a little bit less than that now. So we'll be back up and running any moment. Thank you for your patience. Okay, we'll be starting at any minute again.
Can I welcome members back to the meeting? We now proceed with a question in the name of Assembly Member Cooper.
Thank you, Chair. Thanks for the question. We established the London Climate Finance Facility in 2023 to unlock and mobilise finance to help us achieve net zero by 2030. From the outset, the facility is focused primarily on mitigation efforts as the business models and returns on investment for these projects are better understood. However, I fully recognise the need to improve London's resilience to the impacts of climate change as outlined in the London Climate Resilience Review. Adaptation and resilience are a critical part of London's climate response, and we're making progress in these areas, from supporting sustainable urban drainage to funding the planting of 620,000 trees and developing plans to ensure our waterways are less exposed to flooding. How we must recognise that it presents different and more complex financing challenges. Many adaptation projects do not yet have clear or reliable revenue streams, which makes investment more difficult. My climate change adaptation and green finance teams are progressing work through the Pathways to Resilience programme, through which London has secured EU funding to develop an investment plan for heat risk. This work includes mapping funding opportunities, assessing innovative financing mechanisms, and exploring the role that public funding, blended finance and alternative delivery models could play in building heat resilience. We're also identifying key barriers to adaptation finance and the actions needed to address these. This programme is currently our main avenue for exploring practical and credible approaches to finance adaptation. We'll carefully assess its outcomes and consider whether they could be replicated for other climate risks over time. I also recently launched my Climate Finance Task Force. The primary focus for the task force is on mitigation projects where revenue streams and investment models are typically more established and therefore more likely to attract private sector interest. The task force will also consider the relevance of its work to adaptation and resilience.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I mean, it's a difficult area, isn't it? Because I think we know what we need to do, but it's not really something where we can look to the City Hall budgets to fund everything. I mean, that would be completely inappropriate in any case. But at the same time, working together with the public and private sector is going to be crucial to bring in, frankly, what will need to be billions in terms of investment. And London is a big city that sits on a large river. We can't really afford to have London flooded by the River Thames or anything like that. So I just wondered if you could maybe say a little bit more to add to what you've already outlined. How can the London Climate Finance Fund help to leverage in the money that we need from the private sector? What kind of incentives can we give? What can we do around risk-sharing mechanisms? What can we do about the kind of partnerships that we need to develop to make this actually really crack on?
Yeah, no, thanks for your question and your huge support in this area for a number of years. I think it just kind of just emphasise the point I made in answer to your first question, which is whenever it comes to borrowing in projects, the key issue is how will it be paid back. And that's a challenge when it comes to green finance as well. So we've stimulated the market with the support of City Hall funds. The idea is to leverage in, as you said, private sector money, and the government's trying to do the same as well with a number of the programmes it has. So what we've done with the money we've got from the London Climate Finance Facility is we've managed to make available, if you include our money and the private sector, £1.1 billion to decarbonise various projects in London. That gives you an idea of public-private working together can make. The Green Finance Fund funded 15 projects, and that's reduced carbon dioxide emissions hugely and energy hugely. The Mayor's Energy Efficiency Fund mobilised more than £445 million of additional investment. We put in £96 million. We brought in sort of 5 times that, and that's the difference we can make with them. To give you an idea of the difference we've made, 40,000 tonnes of carbon dioxide per annum reduced from the Green Finance Fund 5 rounds. 36,000 of tonnes of carbon dioxide reduced savings from our Mayor's Energy Efficiency Fund. That's the difference we're making in terms of emissions and reductions. We could do even more with more programmes. We're saying to communities, let's know what schemes you have, which we can help you get funding for.
I mean, another area that I think is really difficult is trying to create something that's bankable, something that has a return on investment when it's some form of mitigation, particularly around things like the need for planting, which you referred to, in trees. How can we approach that? You said the London Climate Task Force is looking into that whole area of mitigation. How are they getting on?
I think some things we've got to recognise will require grant money because it's difficult to monetise planting trees. You can offset, you can try and work out a complicated scheme of offsetting. There are some car manufacturers that monetise zero-emission cars by offsetting against carbon. It's difficult for us to do in the projects we're doing, but we're looking into what can we do to increase the availability and access from private sector to meet our investment needs to reach net zero. We're also, being frank, looking across the globe at other cities. If somebody's doing something innovative, we can just pinch. The downside is nobody else is doing anything that's more innovative than us, and so we are leading the way in this area. So it's a challenge for us in terms of not being able to copy somebody else's idea. We've now published the task force terms of reference. The primary focus is on mitigation projects. Let me be frank, because there the revenue streams and investment models are more established. But any resilience projects, more than happy to look into because we need those as well.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. Thank you, Chair.
We're now moving on to the question in the name of Assembly Member Desai.
Can I thank the member for his question? The London Growth Plan recognises East London as one of our capital's most significant growth locations, and I'll continue to do everything I can to back East London. In the Royal Docks, for example, following City Hall's own relocation in 2021, we're supporting the development of a new global business district focused on innovation, culture, trade and green growth, and we're also pleased that Smithfield and Billingsgate markets are moving to the docks. At the Queen Elizabeth Olympic Park, we're building on the legacy of the Olympics to attract further investment into culture, sports and education, from the development of East Bank to the success of ABBA Voyage, drawing visitors, talent and investment opportunities into East London. Along the Thames Estuary Production Corridor, we're backing East London's role as a powerhouse for the creative industries, including helping to springboard £350 million of private investment at Eastbrook Studios. And East London continues to be a globally competitive business location, as demonstrated by JP Morgan Chase's plans for a new headquarters in Canary Wharf and Visa's announcement to relocate the European headquarters there. East London locations have also been actively promoted and supported through Opportunity London, our single front door for investors. 10 major East London investment opportunities feature in the prospectus launched last September, from Bow Goods Yard and Silvertown in the Royal Docks to Barking Riverside and Thames Road, forming a core part of London's investor-ready pipeline. We're also investing in the infrastructure that makes this growth possible and boosts opportunities for those who live in East London. That's why I'm proud to have secured government's backing for the DLR extension to Thamesmead, a commitment that will undoubtedly bring in more private investment in the area. And only last month, I was pleased to see Senator Desai at the launch of a new all-electric zero-emission cross-river ferry between Rotherhithe and Canary Wharf with Uber Boat by Thames Clippers, improving air quality and making journeys across the river faster and more accessible.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, for that fairly detailed answer. And in fact, you answered my first supplementary. So just one more question from me. How will you ensure that local residents are able to benefit from the new jobs and investment created by these projects? And I ask this question in the context of the development of Canary Wharf in the 1990s, when local people felt that they were not benefiting from all the various developments in and around Canary Wharf, and which led to the rise of support for extremist parties.
Can I first say that the one thing I didn't talk about, because I don't want to dampen the spirit, was one thing doing badly in the East End, which is West Ham. I thought I didn't want to spoil the mood of the meeting, Chair, by talking about that. But park that for a second. I think the future looks really rosy for the East End. But he's right. We've got to make sure that local residents enjoy the benefits and the fruits of this excitement we are talking about. Hardwired into all we do, from the East Bank to the housing to the infrastructure investment, has got to be local residents benefiting from the investment. A good example is ABBA Voyage, by the way. That was using local products in terms of how you build ABBA Voyage. Local people were employed, putting in public transport benefits, usually from footfall and so forth. So I can reassure him by saying we announced recently, Howard Dorber and myself, £147 million towards an inclusive talent strategy. and that will be targeted towards those parts of our city where there are underserved communities who aren't fulfilling their potential, to give them the skills they need for the jobs being created in our city. And one of the themes of my speech tonight in relation to AI is how we turn what is a potential challenge into an opportunity by training up people into how we can use AI to ensure that we can create jobs that people like those in East London can benefit from. It's so important that we don't repeat the mistakes of the past where people felt like a spaceship has landed and they don't see the benefits of that spaceship. We'll make sure people see the benefits of investment in the East End.
Thank you for that reassuring answer, Mr. Mayor, and we won't talk about West Ham. Perhaps Assemblymember Prince might have a supplementary to follow up about West Ham.
We're now moving to the next question in the name of Assembly Member Bakari.
Thanks for your question, as ever. Since 2023, I've been extremely proud that we fund nutritious and healthy free school meals for all London state primary school children to support children and families at a time of increased financial pressure and help improve children's education. I'm also proud to say that for as long as I am Mayor, this will continue. The government's expansion of the national eligibility criteria to include pupils whose households are on the universal credit is something to celebrate. This is a much more welcome uplift from the current eligibility threshold, a household income of just £7,400 per year, which has excluded many families who are struggling. It rightly recognises that free school lunches not only provide much-needed financial relief, but also improve the lives of children and their families, positively influencing health and well-being. This government expansion will mean from September, more pupils from households on universal credit will also benefit, saving more London families up to £500 per child each year. With this expansion of the national eligibility criteria, it's even more important that pupils eligible for the government scheme are registered. Registration secures vital pupil premium funding for schools and ensures families receive the benefits they're entitled to. So it's essential to ensure that all eligible families fill out the necessary forms. City Hall has helped boroughs simplify the process, and councils are now required to have a system in place to ensure all eligible pupils are registered. In London, we're starting to see what a difference this can make. So far, over 9,000 eligible pupils have been identified through this approach. Registering these missed pupils means schools could benefit from more than £11.5 million of additional funding from the government each year to support the education of disadvantaged pupils. I'll continue championing more automated registration approaches to ensure no child is missed. I know from personal experience what a difference these meals make. Ensuring that every child in a state-funded primary school has access to a hot, nutritious meal every day is one of my proudest achievements as Mayor. Late last year, we celebrated an incredible 100 million meals funded, benefiting up to 270,000 children across London.
Thank you. And it was good to hear that you have no regrets on the Lib Dem policy of free school meals in primary schools. But we do know that the GLA is saying that they no longer need to draw from the £50 to £60 million reserves each year. So I'd like to know if you're going to be able to use that money to redeploy it to support child poverty in another way, perhaps actually focusing on the persistent issue of holiday hunger. Are you hoping that the Holiday Hope Initiative and the new Family Financial Resilience Partnership could be something that could actually resolve this issue?
Look, we already give a lot of support towards holiday hunger, supporting great initiatives, not just the Mayor's Fund, but also projects like Felix and many others. I'm not sure that the number she mentions. We'll know the universal credit figures in spring. The funding from the government doesn't come into play until September, so I think we'll have to wait and see what difference it makes in terms of the numbers the members talking about, and then clearly bear in mind the huge budget constraints everyone in the public sector has, how we use any savings.
And will you make sure that you will be consulting the team on this? So, the CFO, when they were questioned about how you're going to be using your reserve funds, didn't have pretty much any idea of what you were planning to do. So what's your thinking in terms of how you're going to be approaching this and making sure that that team is fully consulted?
I think you may need to wait until we are before the Budget and Performance Committee at the plenary, where we set out details of our budget for 26-27.
And finally, as free school meals are definitely a question that is related to the budget, and we've just been hearing from the Conservative group about their concerns about job losses. Will you, Mr Mayor, join me in offering sympathy
to Robert Jenrick, who I understand has just lost his job today. Poor Rob. Kemi and Rob aren't friends anymore.
I've been busy answering questions from members of the Assembly this morning, but if the member wants to elaborate on what's happened to Robert Jenrick, I'm more than happy for us to listen.
Well, let's see what happens with Robert Jenrick. I must say his name correctly one day. Robert Jenrick, yeah. But I do understand that the Reform Party is now becoming some sort of retirement home for Tories at the moment. So we'll see if he goes over there.
Chair, my observation is it's all gone very quiet amongst the Tory group.
They're absolutely welcome to. Make no mistake.
I'm more than happy to answer any questions from the Tories about Robert Jenrick if they've got any, Chair.
Yeah, they're welcome to. We're very much.
Meanwhile, Assembly Member Georges is looking for a Green Party post, I think.
Okay, colleagues, shall we continue? Are you finished? Thank you. We're now moving on to the question from Assembly Member Baker, TfL procurement.
Can I thank the member for her question? TfL is subject to the Local Government Act 1972, which requires its board-level meetings to be held in public with papers made public in advance. Meetings are also live-streamed for transparency. Only certain materials are exempt from publication, with strict legal requirements to be met if information can't be shared. TfL is committed to transparency and publishes information in line with the Local Government Transparency Code. In terms of TfL's procurement processes, these align with my responsible procurement policy for social value, diversity and sustainability. TfL publishes a huge amount of data on a range of subjects, including contracts, expenditure, how reliable services are, customer satisfaction, journey data and financial performance. The TfL Finance Committee and Programmes and Investment Committee typically approves major procurements. Reports of these decisions are presented to the full board. A summary of the major forthcoming procurements or contract extensions is also presented at the Finance Committee and Programmes and Investment Committee, including significant procurements that will require approval at officer level. Along with the rest of the board, I'll continue to ensure that TfL continues to deliver the world-class transfer system in an open and transparent way, whilst also achieving value for money.
Thanks very much, Mr Mayor, and I absolutely agree that the TfL board is a hugely important layer of the transparency and accountability of Transport for London. I want to ask specifically, several recent TfL contracts have been approved by the Chair's action by the Chair of Finance Committee on the recommendation of TfL officers. Do you think that this generally should be an exception rather than a regular occurrence so that continues to have that transparency and oversight?
Yeah, I think she raises a really important. The member raises a really important issue, and it should be the exception, not the norm. There's a reason why these meetings are held in public, subject to the commercial sensitivities, and the reason why it's better a group of people taking actions rather than an individual. There may be occasions where a deadline falls in between meetings, and what's got to happen is there's, advance notice of when an agreement's got to be reached. Colleagues in the committee are able to challenge any decision made by the chair, but also the board has an opportunity to raise issues as well. But it's really important we provide that confidence to the public, but also avoid aspersions being cast. I'm not casting aspersions on no issue, by the way, about officers' own prejudices, small p, affecting decisions. So I think her sentiment's spot on.
That reassurance is appreciated. And I just want to ask also a specific question on a contract. In the recent announcement of the tube cleaning service being awarded to Mighty, there included a commitment to a comprehensive pilot to understand the necessary steps to deliver these services in-house in an efficient, affordable and productive manner in the future. Obviously, this is really positive given your and certainly our long-held ambition to ultimately in-source the tube cleaners. Are you able to give us information either now, because it's probably quite detailed, or after the meeting about what this pilot will involve, and specifically whether it's actually going to involve insourcing some members of staff or whether it's going to be in some other form?
Can I thank the member for her question? She's had a long interest in this issue, as indeed I have, for reasons that are well rehearsed in public. Look, The end goal for me is to bring in-house all cleaners. I want us to directly employ them. Over the last 9 years, we've massively improved their terms and conditions. We've supported them in terms of the remuneration they receive, in terms of policies around sick pay, in terms of travel and so forth. I want us to go even further and be their direct employers. For a variety of reasons, we can't do that now. And we've got a private company who's going to be doing this for the short term at least. We'll see how long the contract. We know the terms of the contract. Within that, we want to work with our fantastic cleaners and the trade unions that represent them to see if we can have as a comparator, sort of piloting the possibility of directly employed TfL staff cleaning. And it's not just the station and the tracks, there's the offices, the depots and so forth and so forth. So I can't give you details now. For obvious reasons, we won't share that publicly and stuff. It's a discussion to be had with the private contractor, TfL, the workers, the trade unions. But I'm really hopeful because it's the first time that we've managed to get to this position. And I, as I said to you, my ends, I want to telegraph publicly so everyone knows what my ends are. And let's try and work towards that.
That's really positive. And yes, when you are able to share details, that would be really welcome. Back to you, Chair.
Okay, we're now moving to the question in the name of Assembly Member Wilson concerning the challenges facing London.
Thank the member for his question. As we start 2026, I'm extremely proud of the progress we made in 2025. From delivering the 100 millionth free school meal, freezing bus fares once again, and reducing major crimes, to getting the government to go ahead for the DLR extension and pushing ahead with our plans to revitalise Oxford Street. At every turn, I've been working to fulfil my promise to build a safer, greener, fairer and more prosperous London for everyone. That said, I know there's still a lot more to be done and the capital faces a series of complex challenges in the year ahead. Prior to the pandemic, we were completing more homes than any time since the 1930s, but a combination of factors rooted in the legacy of the previous government have led to a perfect storm. And we're now living through the most difficult period of house building nationally since the global financial crash. But I'm determined to rise to this challenge. Last year, we secured a record £11.7 billion in government funding for social and affordable homes in London, and millions more for a new City Hall Developer Investment Fund designed to unlock stalled development so we can get on with delivering the homes Londoners desperately need. This year, we'll also be working to build on the significant progress we've made in reducing crime. Last year, we broke records, with London seeing the lowest murder rate since records began per capita, the fewest murders of those aged under 25 this century, and the fewest teenage homicides in almost 3 decades. Our homicide rate is lower than New York, Paris, Berlin, Brussels, Milan, Toronto, and every US state, and violent crime rates are lower in London than any city in the UK. According to the ONS, you're less likely to be a victim of violence in London than the rest of England and Wales. These impressive results vindicate our approach by doubling investment in the Met Police Service from City Hall and funding over 500,000 targeted interventions to stay young Londoners away from crime and towards positive opportunities. We've been able to dramatically drive down violence in our city. This is an inconvenient truth for those who have taken to talking down our city at every turn. Taking on these irresponsible politicians and commentators who spread lies and sow division for their own political gain will also be a key challenge for our city in the year to come.
Thank you, Mr Mayor, and can I take this opportunity to wish you a Happy New Year as well. You've missed out one or two key challenges there, so with your indulgence, I'd like to raise them. Firstly, it's a shame that Assemblymember Turrell's question was withdrawn because throughout the Budget and Performance Committee meetings that we've just been sitting through in the last couple of weeks, every functional body has effectively confirmed that they're not in a position to meet your 2030, your artificial 2030 net zero target, and yet your consolidated climate budget for this year racks up to a staggering £1.2 billion. Now, I appreciate some of that's revenue, some of that's capital. So my question is, of that capital, how much is borrowed? What is the cost of interest on that? So how much are you adding to London's mortgage to shoot for a target which everybody knows you're not going to meet?
Chair, can I, with your indulgence, give some examples why this question is so ridiculous? If a bus operator contracted with TfL decides, because the life of a bus has come to an end, to replace his retrofitted diesel bus with a zero-emission bus, that is a decision taken by the bus operator that reduces carbon emissions. That is a cost, but it's not an additional addage to, inverted commas, the mortgage you are talking about. If it is the case that when it comes to replacing the bulbs on a bus shelter on a main road, TfL decides to replace that bulb with an LED bulb that reduces carbon emissions, but is not, as the member suggests, an additional burden to Londoners. And I can give many other examples where when the natural life or something comes to an end, by replacing it with something that's energy efficient and reduces carbon makes huge sense. When a huge council estate is renewing its heating, rather than replacing that heating with big industrial gas pumps, if they were replaced with air heat pumps, reduces carbon emissions, but also supports us in relation to a number of other projects as well. Electric charging points in London. We have more than 27,000, which is a great service for those Londoners with an electric car. Helps reduce carbon emissions as well. When it comes to retrofitting buildings...
I was asking for an overall number. If that's not something that you've got in front of you right now, perhaps that's something that I could have in writing at a future date. But moving on, another huge challenge, which you didn't mention in your initial response, is the state of our economy. It's flatlining. And the fact that earlier on today, everyone seems to be jumping for joy at 0.3% growth just underpins exactly what a terrible situation we're in. And we know the root cause of that is Rachel Reeves' disastrous budget. It's the national insurance hike. It's rising unemployment in every month since that budget. And it's entrepreneurs fleeing London faster than any other major city apart from Moscow. Hospitality being decimated, which I know Assembly Member Best is very, very passionate about. So at what point, when we go through this chaos, this shambles of this government and this Chancellor, at what point will you be telling the Prime Minister to call time on Rachel Reeves' catastrophic mismanagement of the economy?
Well, I mean, Chair Smith reminding colleagues that up until the global financial crash, on average, our economy has grown by 2%. Notwithstanding austerity in 2010, some small progress made. But the big hemorrhaging of our economy in terms of growth or lack thereof happened after Brexit. And in his long list, I'm astonished he didn't mention Brexit in terms of one of the consequences of us now not being part of a single market. Our nearest trading partner is so important. There is no successful economy in the world that doesn't do the most trade with its neighbours. It's common sense. And this rupture has caused big problems to our economy. The good news is the growth plan we published last year, the London Growth Plan, twinned with the inclusive talent strategy. We think over the course of the next 10 years, we can grow our economy in London more than it's been the case since Brexit. And we will need some government support, but he's right to remind us about the difference entrepreneurs make for the better. I'm a pro-business mayor. I get upset when I'm told businesses are leaving London. I'll tell you what, talking down London doesn't make it more likely they're going to stay. It makes it more likely they're going to leave. And he's got to stop talking down London, particularly when he's telling lies about London.
Well, no, well,
our capital city is a great city. I don't know why he's always talking it down.
I'm glad in a way that you did mention that, because that, of course, is the most significant challenge that we have right now, and heading into what's going to be a very important year for London and for elections in London. I think the biggest challenge is that we have a political establishment that's headed up by yourself that won't tolerate an honest discussion about the state we're in. If you don't accept the state you're in, how can you fix it for the future? And if we challenge your record, you call us divisive. If we point out where so much is going wrong, you say we're talking down London. We're not talking down London. We're commenting on the way that you're running down London and that this government is running down the country. So as a personal challenge to you, Mr Mayor, for the next few months ahead, I know it's probably not much point continuing this discussion in this chamber, but on the doorsteps across London, look forward to having those honest conversations, and I hope you and your colleagues will do as well.
OK. Do you want to respond?
I just said, Chair, for somebody and a party that proclaims to be in favour of free speech, it's surprising many of them decide to emigrate to countries that don't have free speech and indeed have Sharia law.
OK, I'm going to go Assembly Member Roberts.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Just on the subject of talking down London and the comments made by the Reform candidate for Mayor regarding London, do you think she hates London?
There is this juxtaposition with some people who speak for the Reform Party in them talking down our capital city, yet seeking to represent parts of our capital city, and indeed our capital cities. I'm more than happy to have a debate in relation to policies, whether it's housing, crime, transport, a number of other issues. But the way some people denigrate, not just our city, but our values, denigrate diversity, denigrate pluralism, denigrate the progress made over the last 8-9 years, never talk up our city. It does surprise me why they're so desperate then to be politicians and leaders of our respective constituencies or our great capital city.
Assembly
Sorry, can I
Member
just respond
Best.
to that, Chair? Sorry, I've got 20 seconds. Can I just respond to that?
I'll bring you in. Assembly Member Best.
I'd like to hear. Seems excited.
I'm in your hands, Assembly. Right, let's bring the Assembly Member Wilson. 20 seconds. Come on, show us what you can do. 24. Go on, go for it.
Just to say that our mayoral candidate for London was born in London, has lived in London all her life.
And
she loves London, and it's because she loves London she wants it to be better. And I want London to be better as well. I think it's incumbent on all of us here to bring about that.
Question. OK, we're going to move on. Assembly Member Best.
Thank you. Mr Mayor, with all due respect, I think the biggest challenge Londoners may face in 2026 is getting the truth out of you. And it begins again with that statistic you try to quote around knife crime. The fact of the matter is there is 172 knife crimes per 100,000 people in London. The next nearest one is the West Midlands, where it's 142. And for the average in England and Wales, it's 83. So please stop giving these dodgy statistics to Londoners and stop repeating the lie that because we call you out, we don't love London. Of course we all love London. That's why we're here. That's why we pay these exuberant prices. That's why we put up with you being mayor, because we love this city. And you know that despite the failures on housing, public transports and roads, one of the biggest things that people feel is crime. And when you're reading out those statistics, what you fail to mention is that surveys with YouGov have shown that 25% of Londoners wouldn't even report their bike or phone being stolen. So what are you going to do to make sure people have more confidence in reporting theft to the police?
I'm really concerned about high-volume crime in our capital city. I'm particularly concerned around personal theft, personal robbery, shoplifting, but also violence against women and girls. That's one of the reasons why I've been so angry. Our police service has been hollowed out by 14 years' worth of cuts. That's why I'm so angry that the conditions that lead to crime occurring, without excusing it, deprivation, poverty, alienation, lack of opportunities have been exacerbated by 14 years' worth of austerity.
It doesn't work when the first time we're losing offices is under this government.
Please continue, Mr Mayor.
It's one of the reasons why from City Hall we've more than doubled investment in our police service. By the way, the previous mayor cut by more than £350 million supports police service by not increasing police precept as he was able to do so. We're also supporting the police in terms of neighbourhood teams, so important in terms of personal robbery and personal theft. But she's right that one of the reasons people don't report crime is they've got no confidence that action will be taken. And that's why the police have said to shopkeepers and to people who are victims of crime, please report it. Over the last year, they've doubled the police team in the West End. That's led to a massive reduction in thefts, but also greater confidence amongst those shopkeepers who are now working with the police to reduce crime further, sharing CCTV data they weren't in the past, even reporting it without sharing it. And we've got to bear down more on this high-volume crime. It is affecting people's quality of life and perceptions.
OK, let's move on to Assembly Member Polanski.
Thank you, Chair. When Reform attack action on the climate crisis, how much of the £2.3 million that they've taken in donations from 2019 to 2024 from oil and gas companies, climate-denying companies, do you think is paying them to make these kind of statements?
I think it's really important for us to have transparency in how politicians are funded. And I think when you see vested interests, paying donations to politicians who sometimes parrot lines we know the vested interests, the polluters, believe in, it should raise questions about their motivation. Are they speaking what they're speaking because they love the city, they love the country, they believe in what they're saying? Or are they speaking it because there are strings attached to the support that these vested interests will provide politicians? And it is really important that we ask questions about the motivation of some of the anti-patriotic garbage that comes from these politicians' minds, but also their failure to recognise the man-made climate crisis, the failure to recognise these chicks coming home to roost in London with flash floods, with heat waves and with excess deaths in summer because of those heat waves and in winter because of the challenge we have then.
Thank you, Chair.
Assembly Member Cooper.
Thank you, Chair. Mr Mayor, you're the third Mayor of London. The first two only served for 8 years. You're just coming up for 10 years now. And there have been a whole series of challenges which you have not stepped back from during the course of that 10 years. When you first came in, the previous mayor had launched the concept of ULEZ but had not implemented it. You implemented it, and instead of taking 198 years or whatever the really long period of time was, you managed to clean up London's air, and there's still more to be done. So that's one challenge. I think we've already touched on the challenge that we face in terms of addressing the climate emergency. But we also need to look at inward investment, which you've promoted the entire time. The previous mayor also set up London and Partners, which has been instrumental in helping us with that global investment and also visitors from overseas as well as students. We are also looking at us on the global stage and our role, C40 cities, set up by the first mayor of London, of course, but you have been the chair of C40 cities in the last few years. So there are still these challenges, Mr Mayor, but do you think that you are ready to step forward to face them in a way that someone who describes herself as the new sheriff of London, whatever on earth that might mean, are you ready for this in a way that other politicians just aren't?
Look, can I thank you for reminding me of some of the challenges we faced over the last 9 years together and how we responded to those challenges. And that's the London spirit. We don't resile from challenges or cower in front of intimidation. We respond in kind. And it's one of the reasons why we are, on a number of metrics, the greatest city in the world. I don't understand why people talk down our capital city when the evidence is to the contrary. And I'm not asking for naive, jingoistic support of the capital city. Based on objective criteria, as imperfect as we are the greatest city. Evidence of that, in a very trivial sense, some would say, is, this weekend, we've got, NBA coming back to London. I mean, these American teams have chosen to come to London, which is proof that some Americans like me.
I mean, the first mayor of London won the Olympics. The second mayor of London hosted the Olympics. You have broadened that out into a huge array of sporting activities.
Because I see the benefits of sports to our capital. Look, one of the points that Unmesh raised was about how the Eastern can benefit from the investment. That goes to sports as well. So the NBA aren't just coming on Sunday. We persuade them to invest in grassroots, and they're doing. The American football doesn't just come to London. They invest in grassroots, so we benefit as well. The same goes with baseball. And it's really important for ordinary Londoners to benefit from these elite sports that we bring to London. And so I'm passionate about making sure that all Londoners, enjoy the fruits of us being the greatest city in the world.
Talking down London is going to undermine all of this work, is it not?
Well, human nature. If you talk down anything, it could be a sports team, it could be a business, it could be a capital city, it could be a country. Why would you, as an outsider, want to invest in that place when people who live there claim to want to represent constituencies or cities or even be the Prime Minister, are always talking down and denigrating that city, that constituency or the country?
Well, I think we've been very lucky with our first three mayors of London, and long may this mayoralty continue. Thank you, Chair.
OK. Just before we begin the next question, will the Assembly agree to me to suspend Standing Orders 2.9b in order to allow the remaining business on the agenda to be completed?
Agreed.
I know you all want to hear me. We're now moving to the next question, which is in my name, so we're about to go on the clock, and it's regarding men's mental health.
Can I begin by thanking the London Assembly's Health Committee for their report into men's mental health. I'd also like to commend the committee for ensuring that men with lived experience were placed at the heart of the report, and for obvious reasons, this is personal to me. In our Health Inequality Strategy Implementation Plan, I set out that I'd continue to help ensure that mental health is valued and protected as much as physical health, and I remain committed to working with partners to strengthen support for mental health. Through the London Mental Health Strategy and the London Mental Health Board, we're taking a London-wide partnership-led approach that brings together the NHS, the GLA, boroughs, integrated care boards, employers and voluntary organisations. A key focus of the work is to reduce stigma and improve access to services. Through my support for Thrive London, we've invested in campaigns and resources that encourage Londoners to seek help. This included improving signposting and expanding digital support offers. Addressing men's mental health is important. Suicide remains one of the leading causes of death for men under 50, and we must work collectively to change this. Since launching the Zero Suicide London campaign alongside partners in 2019, I'm proud that over 470,000 Londoners have taken the training and learnt how to spot the signs of someone in crisis and help ensure that no life is lost to suicide. I stand firm in my commitment to working with partners to strengthen support for men's mental health so that we create a city where men feel comfortable talking about everyday challenges and can access the right support when they need it.
And is, in general, one of the key challenges facing this area of work is about the stigma. It's still a key barrier preventing men from accessing treatment and support services. In my London Assembly, Greenwich and Lewisham constituency, we're very fortunate to have an organisation that's in the chamber, Deborah Ewby Trust, that provides a range of mental health support services, including a new project called Men's Connect, a new experimental talking group for men. What more can we do in terms of tackling the stigma issues and connect men with those services that are available?
Well, can I commend the Deborah Ewby Trust team? I had the privilege of meeting some of them during the break, and we talked about the stigma, particularly for men, talking about these challenges. I've got nothing but praise for Prince William and Prince Harry for talking about the challenges they faced. Alistair Campbell, more recently Anthony Joshua, talking about the bereavement of two of his closest friends in a road traffic accident in Nigeria. My concern is sometimes when men talk about it, they're criticised or chastised or called weak. I remember when I talked about my mental ill health, a Conservative member asking whether I should have maybe stepped back and resigned as the mayor rather than carrying on with the job. What confidence does that give others to talk about their mental health when that sort of language is being used when I talk about my mental ill health? So I think as a society, there are things we can do. By the way, not all mental health needs to be medicalised. There are things we can do sometimes to help colleagues with mental ill health that is not necessarily medication or going to cost the NHS a huge sum of money. We're supporting the provision of apps. We're supporting groups to provide support. It's got to start early, though. And one of the things that impressed me talking to colleagues from the Deborah Ewby Trust was their recognition you've got to start in primary school. Incredibly important, start young. So boys have more confidence talking about their feelings. When you ask somebody, how are you? You ask again, how are you? In case people give a knee-jerk response, it is a big blight. I think when we say the biggest cause of death, one of the biggest causes of death for men under 50 is suicide.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. Can I just turn very quickly to another issue relating to younger adults who are unable to work due to their mental health issues? This is some work that's been done by our Health Committee as well. Are you working with government to improve mental health for young people so that they can rejoin that labour market? What more, or what's the plans in the coming years?
Well, we've got really good engagement now with the Department for Work and Pensions, who are leaders in this area. I met recently with the Secretary of State, Pat McFadden, who has now commissioned Anna Milburn to do some work in relation to youth unemployment and underemployment as well. I was really pleased the government gave us some support in terms of a trailblazer, Get Britain Working Trailblazer, which is looking into those in needs, not in education, employment or training, and how to get them back into work with the right support. And actually, we all know that work gives us confidence, it gives us self-esteem, it raises our morale. And those who aren't working because of ill health, often their mental ill health has been exacerbated. So there's a win-win here. You get them into work, which means they're working, paying taxes, national insurance, contributing to their family's well-being, but also their mental health improves as well. So it's really important we work with the government, work with the NHS, work with partners to try and address this issue. Starting young is important if you can talk about it without necessarily medicalising it. It means we know what the issue is. Some GPs are doing some great work around social prescribing, really important. That can help people get back into work by being mentally fit. And it's really important to recognise, actually, One of the ways we can, deal with the issue of those who are economically inactive, those who are unemployed because of ill health, is by giving more provision to this important area.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. Can we stop the clock for me? Thank you. We're now going back into the main agenda. We're now going on to a question in the name of Assembly Member Polanski. Support from the GLA for the lowest paid in London.
Thank you for his question. I'm focused on supporting Londoners to increase their earnings through fair pay, get better quality jobs and keep their everyday costs down. The London Growth Plan and Inclusive Talent Strategy were published last year and set out my ambition to boost the income of the lowest earning 20% of Londoners by 20% by 2035 through the development of more better quality, better paid jobs and better access to skills training. This is on top of the existing work we've been doing to support low-paid Londoners. I continue to work closely with the Living Wage Foundation to increase the number of London living wage employers. Since I was elected, I'm proud that the living wage rate has increased by 57%, from £9.40 to £14.80, while the number of accredited employers has increased sevenfold to over 4,300, putting over £1 billion into the pockets of working Londoners. This means each year, 150,000 Londoners receive a pay rise when the new rates introduced. I introduced my Good Work Standard in 2019. More than 330,000 Londoners are now employed by Good Work Standard accredited employers, benefiting from fair pay and better conditions. In 2024-2025, more than 24,000 low-paid Londoners accessed fully funded courses thanks to flexibilities I introduced to widen access to more Londoners through the Adult Skills Fund. These courses help Londoners retrain, upskill or change sectors, supporting progression into better paid work, particularly in growth sectors. The London Learner Survey shows those in employment saw a 9% income increase after completing their course. I also help fund adult education providers to support low-paid learners with their transport and childcare costs. My income maximisation programme targets support to Londoners experienced or at risk of financial hardship, including low-paid work. And since April 2022, it's helped over 120,000 Londoners and generated over £19 million in additional annual income. My Employment Rights Hub provides guidance about rights at work and is targeted to those in low-paid or precarious work, including London's migrant population. And this government also agreed to scrap the two-child benefit cap, which I voted against as an MP and have campaigned against for years. This will have a significant impact on the lowest paid across London, with more than 260,000 children benefited. And I'm also bearing down on living costs for Londoners, including keeping transport costs as low as possible and funding free school meals for all state-funded primary school children.
Thank you. As you know, people are really struggling. Their rent's up, water bill's up, they dread opening their next energy bill. And it's good to see some of the progress being made, but there's far too many people who are being paid less than minimum wage. Now, the government have been naming and shaming them, but some of these people didn't know their rights, obviously no fault of their own, and some of their pay goes back to 2013 that was incorrect. There's even a council, Havering, that was named. So what work does the GLA do with the list of named employers for government publishers?
So we're really pleased the government's, as part of the Employment Rights Act, going to set out a fair Work Agency. I think it's and so we're looking forward to the Employment Rights Hub working with the Fair Works Agency in relation to what we can do together in relation to the employers the member is talking about. As part of our procurement policies, we're keen to make sure we, invert commas, reward good behaviour and penalise bad behaviour. And that's one of the reasons for the Good Work Standards and the bronze, silver, gold. But if there's more things the member thinks we can and should be doing, I'm more than happy to listen to those. It is good news, the Employment Rights Act. It really is. We've been calling for some of this stuff for years.
And you did say earlier in the session that anyone that the GLA works with in the contract in terms of that it's insourced. But Capita are a TfL contractor who are also named as paying below minimum wage. Does the GLA follow up on reports like these? So,
as you'll be aware, a lot of these multinationals have got different structures within them. I'm more than happy if the Capita contract is relevant to the particular individuals the member's talking about for us to look into this. I just don't know the detail. I'm more than happy to speak to him offline about the particular contract, but I just don't know. I wouldn't want to cast aspersions if I'm wrong.
I totally get that. Thank you very much. Thanks, Chair.
Okay, let's move on. Question in the name of Assembly Member Clark, Oxford Street Economic Growth.
Can I thank the member for her question? The Oxford Street Development Corporation, or OSDC, another acronym because there aren't enough in City Hall, will drive economic growth for London by providing the strategic focus, leadership and long-term planning which is urgently needed for the Oxford Street area. It's worth setting out that Oxford Street is not just a shopping destination. In 2022 alone, notwithstanding its challenges, it contributed an estimated £25 billion to London's economy. That is nearly 5% of the city's global GVA and around 1% of the UK's entire economic output. Each year, it welcomes roughly 120 million visitors, 85% of whom arrive by public transport. The success of Oxford Street is therefore integral for jobs, businesses and for London and the UK's global reputation. It is clear that Oxford Street isn't fulfilling its potential. That is evidenced by reduced spending, rents and footfall, which is only at 57% of the level seen in 2006. The OSDC will bring together experts, businesses, boroughs, TfL and Londoners to take a more coordinated and ambitious approach to growth and improvement. High-quality public spaces, safer streets and more green areas will encourage people to return and spend more time on Oxford Street. Research suggests that such improvements could increase economic output by millions a year, supporting over 780 jobs and up to millions in additional VAT receipts. By creating the right conditions, the OSDC will encourage new retailers and investors to commit to the street. Recent signs of renewed interest from brands and new store openings already show the potential for growth. In short, the OSDC is about unlocking Oxford Street's full economic potential. It's also about creating a safer, cleaner, more attractive and better managed destination that increases footfall, spending and investment. In doing so, it will secure jobs, strengthen London's economy and ensure Oxford Street continues to play its full part in driving the city's economic growth for decades to come.
Thank you for that. And just to say how amazing it was to visit with you in September when the roads were closed. I mean, it was brilliant to see that you had sporting opportunities, you had space for additional shopping, you had space to move, and you could really see the potential of that street. I was disappointed, though, that the Conservatives submitted 16 questions on this topic. And despite widespread public support, none of their questions indicated any support for it. So I do think that's a concern in the upcoming council elections. But I think also, just in terms of our role and a new acronym to come to City Hall, the OSDC, how will Assembly members engage with the OSDC to scrutinise its delivery to be sure that we're getting the best for London out of it?
Well, one of the reasons for, in my view, decline of Oxford Street is the appalling way the previous Westminster Council failed to manage that really important part of our country, not just our city and that borough. And it's really important that we work to try and understand the importance of this part of London and our country and the enhanced contribution it can make. I know Senator Small Edwards and Senator Clark have skin in the game in relation to this street being in their respective constituencies. Additionally, there are members of Parliament and the two councils as well. One of the things that OSDC will do is do some outreach work with key stakeholders like the politicians I've mentioned. Additionally, with businesses, potential businesses, with other stakeholders, we're keen to make sure that, that this successful project has many parents, and that includes politicians like herself as well.
And just additionally, obviously Oxford Street is the way it has been for so long, and it still continues to be, the best shopping street in Europe. But how do you foresee these changes, just instilling that, making it even better, so we can see that TripAdvisor will have it as the #1 high street in the world, in the best city in the world?
I mean, just to push back slightly, I'm not sure if everyone would agree it's the best shopping street. Forget Europe, forget the country, maybe even in London, and that's a problem for me, because this should be our nation's high street. And that's one of the reasons why we've set up this development corporation. We want to work collegially with politicians of all parties. We don't think this is a party political issue. We think this is an issue of wanting what's right for this, jewel in our crown. We know from other places around the world they've pedestrianised the streets, the difference it can make for the better. So we will learn from other parts of the world in terms of what they're doing to make it better, mistakes not to make. It's just worth reminding all of us that in its heyday, Oxford Street wasn't competing with shopping online. In its heyday, Oxford Street wasn't competing with the advent of malls in London and retail parks out of London, quite easy to get to. So it's got to raise its game. I think there's nothing wrong in competition. That should encourage you to raise your game. And one of our objectives will be to raise Oxford Street's game.
Assembly Member James Small Edwards.
Thank you, Chair. Mr. Mayor, it's great to see the world-class design team that have been appointed for Oxford Street. I think they've worked on Times Square, worked on George Street in Sydney. Can you just confirm you'd be willing to help facilitate a meeting between myself and them before the public realm design principles are agreed?
Absolutely. I'll make sure that's an action, Chair. It was probably going to happen anyway, but I'll make sure it happens because it's really important we use and tap up the expertise that's available, particularly because it's pro bono and free.
Thank you, Chair.
Okay, then I'm now moving to the question in the name of Assembly Member Cooper, cleaning London's air.
Unlike some of the Assembly, I take the challenge of cleaning London's air extremely seriously. As a result of my direct action and in the face of Conservative and Reform opposition, London is now leading the way among global cities on air quality. It's because of our commitment and decisive action that London met the legal limit for nitrogen dioxide in 2024 for the first time. This is nearly 200 years earlier than experts predicted. But I'm not stopping there. We know that there is no safe level of air pollution, so I remain committed to meeting World Health Organization guidelines, which are much more stricter than legal limits. This year, my focus is on delivering the actions set out in our Cleaning London's Air plan. This will include delivering a completely zero-emission bus fleet, a world-leading electric vehicle charging network, and a cleaner taxi fleet. We now have over 27,400 chargers and more than 2,600 zero-emission buses. I'll also help to address emissions from wood burning by supporting awareness campaigns, including Clean Air Night later this month, as well as tackling localised hotspots through my Air Quality Fund. Another key focus is making sure Londoners are informed and empowered. That means delivering the School Filters programme, which, in addition to cleaning the air in thousands of classrooms, will help educate teachers and pupils on the harms of air pollution. Our Air Quality Alerts and Breathe London programme will also continue to give Londoners the tools they need to champion action on air pollution and prevent or reduce their own exposure to poor air quality.
Well, thank you very much for your leadership in this area, Mr Mayor, because I think the more that we know about the health impacts of poor air quality, the more dangerous we understand the toxic gases and the small particles getting into our bloodstream, getting into our brain and all of our organs are. Obviously, we're not there yet, as you say. We've still got much to do. One of the things that is concerning me, and it also concerns me in terms of the environmental impact in terms of noise, representing Merton and Wandsworth, is the potential for the expansion of Heathrow to go ahead. Recently, I wrote on behalf of the Environment Committee to the Minister and have had a reply saying that it can only go ahead keeping in line with environmental targets. But I have some concerns about the expansion of Heathrow and the impact on air quality. And I wondered if that's something that you're already discussing with ministers and what can be done to make sure that any expansion, should it go ahead, doesn't undermine the work that's already taken place on improvements.
Yeah, the members are right to raise this issue when it comes to the impact on our constituency, but also on air quality. And let me be quite clear for the avoidance of doubt. Notwithstanding my support of this government, I'm opposed to their support of a third runway at Heathrow Airport. I'm in favour of a better Heathrow Airport, not a bigger one. And what is ironic is one of the requirements on Heathrow is not to breach air quality standards, and they may be taking advantage of the headroom we've created through the ULEZ and other policies to improve air quality to get them over the line when it comes to a third runway. And it's really important to remind ourselves there are a number of reasons why I think a third run at Heathrow is a bad idea. She's mentioned noise, and there are environmental considerations as well. Air quality is another reason why I think the third runway shouldn't take place.
Thank you very much, Mr Mayor. Thank you, Chair.
Okay, the Conservatives are out of time, so the next two questions are not being taken. We then move to our last question of the session, which is in the name of Assembly Member Garbett, MPS Substantial Reform.
Can I thank the member for her question? The Met is a large and complex organisation that operates in a challenging environment with ever-increasing and more complex demands for its services. I've backed the Commissioner, including through record funding from City Hall, so that he can make the necessary reforms to improve the Met's culture, modernise the service and focus on the priorities that matters most to Londoners. To help drive changes in the Met, I asked for the independent review by Baroness Louise Casey, and now major cultural reform is happening within the Met. That includes commencing the biggest clear-out of rogue police officers and staff in British policing history, with nearly 1,500 individuals exited in the last 3 years. I've also invested nearly £12 million towards the Met's new Leadership Academy to raise standards. An important focus of the new Met for London plans has been on fixing the foundations. This is crucial for the Met to be efficient and effective, one that supports its officers and staff to the best job they can. And again, there have been positive changes such as improved governance and accountability and better quality financial reporting within the Met. I'm pleased that we've made huge strides in bearing down on serious crime in London. Last year we saw the lowest level of homicides recorded since records began on a per capita basis. Homicide victims under 25 were the lowest on record this century, and teenage homicides at their lowest in almost 3 decades. And I've continued to push the Met to focus its resources on areas that matter most to Londoners, such as tackling violence, neighbourhood policing and public protection. These have been reflected in organisational changes and positive outcomes like a 50% increase in police presence in hotspot areas like the West End and over 650 additional officers and staff put into public protection roles, boosting the teams that investigate domestic abuse, rape and sexual offences. However, I'm not complacent and will continue to support and hold the Met Commissioner to account in his ongoing efforts to reform and modernise the Met. I've also appointed Dr Gillian Fairfield to lead an independent review of the progress the Met has made since the Casey review. This assessment will help the Met to continue to prioritise reform and accelerate change. There is no doubt that the Met has made progress, but still has more to do to improve the service it offers London.
Thank you. I really want to talk about radical structural options for the Metropolitan Police and the way that it's structured. So Detective Chief Superintendent Andy Cox at Northamptonshire Police last week said that oversight forces weaken leadership, culture and accountability. And then Andy George, the president of the National Black Association, told the Police and Crime Committee in 2024 that their position would be that the MPS probably needs to be broken up at some point. And just yesterday at PCC, Diane Vincent, chair of the Met Black Police Association, said, as an association, we think the Met is too big to manage at the moment. It should be broken up to smaller pieces. So I just wondered if you agree with these comments.
No, I don't. I think there are many organisations that are big, that work effectively. There are many organisations that are big that work ineffectively. There are many small organisations that work well and that don't work well. I think we've got a commission that's a reforming commissioner. We're not the finished product yet. There are still big challenges in the Met Police Service. But if we use the basis of, being big means you can't succeed, what next? TfL?
I think it's specifically the Met being bid, the fact that it's been given time and time again, review after review, saying the same things about it not being able to reform. We've seen Charing Cross recently, and, in Casey's review that you mentioned, she did say that if sufficient progress is not being made at points of further review, more radical structural options such as dividing up the Met into national, specialist and London responsibilities should be considered. So I guess it's that context that I'm bringing this in light of Fairfield coming down the tracks.
Yeah, I think we're in danger of preempting Dr Fairfield's report. I think the point Dame Louise Casey was making was, if after my report's written, the recommendations are followed through and acted upon in a few years' time, we've not made the progress we should make, then we should look at it again. That's a different point of view in relation to where it is now. Where it is now is a service that is transforming for the better, making progress. More progress to be made. And the other point I'd make, just as a sort of additional point, is the government's actually looking into, we have 43 police forces, some of them being so small they're ineffective, and we should be thinking about scaling up some of those police forces and merging some of them because of economies of scale leading to better quality investigations, better quality standards and so forth. So, we've got to be cognizant of that as well.
I do think it's about really listening to to people, though, and people's experiences. Like, time and time again, systems are kind of designed at the top, and I've just read out, different kind of police officers and their views from their officers and their experience of working in such a large organisation. So I do think it would be interesting to see this considered as part of the Fairfield review, like a recommendation around some of the core structures, not just bits and pieces or some of the culture, like how the Met is fundamentally structured in its responsibilities.
And she's right. There are some big problems in the past. So, for example, standards. Big fragmentation of standards in the police service. Fragmentation rather than consolidation in the centre, which is why some parts of the Met Police Service were effectively without proper leadership or scrutiny, appraisals not being done, action not being taken. That's been transformed in the last 2 years. We've increased the amount of professional standards officers by more than 200 because she's right, there are problems structurally in relation to this, highlighted by Damien Casey, really important to say. Another example is the issue of, for example, it sounds a basic point, fridges for forensics. The fragmentation of that wasn't done sensibly and stuff, so procurement of cabinet makes
and I guess I'm talking about kind of large structural responsibilities, this kind of breakup between the national and kind of local responsibilities, but also thinking more about the kind of public health approaches and how we invest in alternatives, things like when, you know, the right care, right person, and Mamdani's doing some exciting stuff in New York, looking at kind of restructuring around communities, and just, it'd be just really exciting if that's the kind of stuff that comes out of Fairfield rather than just we need some more training.
I've lost a bet. It took 3 hours and 5 minutes for the New York Mayor to be mentioned in Mayor's question time. He'll be pleased. We thought it wouldn't be mentioned. Look, I'm more than happy to copy great ideas. I say in a respectful way. You know, the idea that we would copy New York when it comes to policing is not one that I subscribe to.
I just think he's doing some really interesting stuff, like reusing space on undergrounds to support people, talking about bystander training, investing in mental health, like some of the stuff that we've considered here, but it'd just be great to see some of that at scale.
I mean, to be fair, he's copying our ideas, active bystander. I mean, come on. Mental first aid training, I mean, come on. A public health approach, I mean, come on. A violence reduction unit, I mean, come on. He's even the same religion as me.
I'm not saying it's
come
all
on.
new, I'm just saying I'd like that to be part of the Fairfield review. Thank you.
Return to the topic. We're now at the end of the session. Can I thank you, Mayor, for the way that you've answered your questions. I now want to move on to the Assembly. Can I ask the Assembly to agree the motion which is set out on the agenda in my name, which is that the Assembly notes the answers to the questions asked? Thank you very much. We've just got one more formal bit of business to do, Assembly members. Mr. Mayor, you can leave us when you feel you want to. Can I ask the Assembly to, this is item 6, can I ask the Assembly to note the recent decisions in respect to confirmation hearings for mayoral appointments, namely the recent action taken by me as chair in consultation with party group leaders to agree to hold confirmation hearings in relation to the mayor's proposed appointment of Keith Morgan, CBE, to the office of chair of the London Legacy Development Corporation, and to ask the candidate to provide a CV and supporting statements. And to agree the Confirmation Hearing Committee's decision further its meeting held on the 15th of December 2025 to agree to recommend that the Mayor should proceed with his appointment of Keith Morgan, CBE, to his role as Chair of the London Legacy Development Corporation. And then finally, to note the responses from the Mayor to the Confirmation Hearings Committee decision as attached in Appendix 2 of the report. Item 7, future Assembly meetings or meetings of the Assembly. Can I ask the Assembly to agree to accept written answers to all questions submitted to the 26th of February 2026 London Assembly Mayor's Question Time meeting under the Mayor's Question Time procedure in order to devote time to discuss the Mayor's final draft consolidated budget of 2026/27. Item 8, date of the next meeting. The next scheduled meeting of the London Assembly will be the plenary meeting, which will take place at 10 a.m. on Thursday, the 29th of January 2026 in the chamber at City Hall. Item 9, there is no urgent business requiring consideration. I wish you well for the rest of the day in the business that you undertake. I now declare this meeting closed.
Okay, that's the end of that one. First one of the year. The Mayor's question, Lord Mayor, the Mayor of London's question time. Don't forget, we'll be back next month with the same again. Okay, put it in your diary. I will make up an event on the channel nearer the time. Please make sure you're subscribed and you put them bell notifications on. And please hit the like button, or after the stream, comment something down below. Be much appreciated. Thank you, everyone. Stay safe. We'll catch you all soon.